Chapter 12:20. Chu Fengmian's words were transmitted out. After a while, the figure of a young man appeared. He had red hair, the second prince of Heavenly Peng who fought against San Rong earlier. He wasn't alone. There were several experts from Heavenly Peng with him. One of them was an old man who was a one tribulation true emperor. Together with the second prince, they appeared in the void. Only you guys? When Chu Fengmian saw the second prince appear, he didn't look surprised at all. Instead, he looked as if he had already guessed this. Chu Fengmian continued to look at the void. Everyone, there's no need to hide anymore. Come out. When the second prince saw Chu Fengmian's actions, he smiled and spoke to the void. Chu Fengmian, today is the day you die. A cold shout rang out from the void, and a few more figures appeared in the void. The Bai clan? Chu Fengmian felt their auras and muttered to himself. The aura of this figure was from the Bai family. It was very similar to the aura of Master Bai whom Chu Fengmian had killed. However, it was several times stronger than Master Bai's power. Young Lord Bai. He was the current young master of the Bai clan and the successor of the next clan master. Beside him, the experts of the Bai clan had also appeared. Along with young Master Bai's appearance, a few more figures appeared from the void. The auras of these figures were of the same origin as young Lord Bai. The Bai clan, the Qing clan, the Hua clan, the Mo clan, at a glance, there were dozens of demon gods. The experts of the ancient Serpent Empire and the 8 royal clans all appeared. People from the 8 great imperial families are attacking together. It seems like this Chu is truly honored. Chu Fengmian said with a cold smile when he saw this scene. His gaze suddenly locked onto the 2 figures from the 8 great sovereign families. Gold Origin, Pine Tree, you 2 dare to betray me? Gold Origin and Pine Tree stood in the group of the 8 royal clans. They had joined forces with the 8 clans at some point in time. They no longer looked at Chu Fengmian with respect and flattery, only coldness. Betrayal? What betrayal? The 2 of us were only pretending to be obedient. We wanted to find an opportunity to deal with you. Pine Tree glared at Chu Fengmian and said fiercely. We were born members of the 8 royal clans and will die as ghosts. Do you really think we'll submit to you? We've always wanted to kill you. Now, the experts of the 3 empires are here. Chu Fengmian, your death has come. It's a pity that the blood demon supremacy is so stubborn that he wants to die with you. Looks like you and your servant can die together. Jianwang looked at Chu Fengmian and revealed a sinister smile. It's not just your 3 empires who are going to kill this kid. Count us in as well. While they were talking, the void was suddenly broken again. A surge of spiritual energy came through and formed a bridge in the void. More than 10 figures appeared on the bridge. Chu Fengmian, we don't want to kill you. As long as you hand over your swordsmanship and supreme sword aura, we can leave immediately. What do you think? The warrior who spoke was none other than Yi Jianxiu, who had fought with Chu Fengmian in the palace and was defeated by Chu Fengmian. Behind Yi Jianxiu, 4 experts of the 5 mountain sword sect looked at Chu Fengmian with sword-like eyes. Their sword wills were accumulating power, ready to strike at any moment to kill Chu Fengmian. And us. Our Sun family doesn't have such a big grudge with you. But you've killed our people. Hand over the bloodline of the heaven-devouring beast and we'll leave. Another young warrior spoke. He was the peerless genius of the Sun family's younger generation, Sunday. Although Chu Fengmian had killed someone from the Sun family, he had only killed an ordinary disciple. It was nothing to the Sun family. Now that the Sun family had come, their purpose was to seize Chu Fengmian's treasure and get a share. What you want is with me. Come and get it if you can. Chu Fengmian glanced at Yi Jianxiu. A loser dares to be arrogant in front of me. I gave you some face and didn't kill you. Now you're here to die. You. Hearing the words loser, Yi Jianxiu's face suddenly turned red and showed boundless anger. Just as he was about to explode, an elder behind him reached out and stopped him, suppressing Yi Jianxiu's anger. Very well, Chu Fengmian. I'd like to see how long you can be so stubborn. Yi Jianxiu looked at Chu Fengmian with boundless killing intent. Sun family, 5 mountain sword sect. The experts of the human forces are also here. When Pine Tree saw the arrival of these figures, the complacent look on his face became even more intense. He looked at Chu Fengmian and said coldly, Chu Fengmian, it seems that you've done a lot of evil. Today, all the experts of the ancient monster continent are here. It seems that you're going to die today. Not bad, not bad. It seems that all my enemies are here. Chu Fengmian's eyes swept across the figures. There were at least 100 of them descending into the void and surrounding Chu Fengmian. Among them, the weakest was a quasi-emperor. There were even 8 true emperors. In addition, there were the disciples of the sacred dragon secret realm and the second prince, who were comparable to true emperors. Chu Fengmian was surrounded by more than a dozen true emperors and 100 quasi-emperors. It was rare to see such a big lineup even in the ancient monster continent. Very well, all of you are here. I don't have to deal with all of you one by one. Chu Fengmian looked at the countless experts in front of him with a calm expression. Such calmness caused the expressions of many warriors present to change slightly. If Chu Fengmian was so calm at this time, could it be that there was a terrifying background behind him? Only Gold Ingot and Pine Tree snorted coldly. Don't be afraid. This person is just bluffing. He has no background. The two of them had followed Chu Fengmian for some time and knew a little about him. Although the strength that Chu Fengmian had displayed was monstrous, no matter what, he had never displayed any shocking background. Chu Fengmian, surrender. No matter how much you struggle, you'll die without a doubt. Chapter 12:21. You're just a dog yet you dare to bark? Chu Fengmian shouted coldly. He stared at Pine Tree with cold eyes. You think you can escape my control now that an expert has removed the seal on your body? Chu Fengmian's mind shifted while speaking. The heavenly death seal engraved on Pine Tree's body suddenly condensed spiritual power with a thought from Chu Fengmian. Under Chu Fengmian's control, the heavenly death seal immediately took control of the spirit vein of the Pine Tree. What? Pine Tree sensed the change in his body and became aghast. Earlier, he asked the true emperors to work together to remove the seal. He thought that he was completely free from Chu Fengmian's control. That was why he dared to act so arrogantly in front of Chu Fengmian. But in reality, what Qing Song had dispelled was merely an ordinary restriction. This heavenly death seal was one of the most overbearing seals Chu Fengmian had ever seen. How could something that could enter Chu Fengmian's eyes be ordinary? A few true emperors couldn't stop the seal even in their dreams. Patriarch, quick, save me! Pine Tree cried for help from the Qing clan's ancestors. The true emperors from the 8 royal clans immediately poured spirit energy into Pine Tree's body. He intended to dissolve the power of the natural death seal on Pine Tree's body. However, the moment their spirit energy entered Pine Tree's body, the emperor's expression changed drastically. The heavenly death seal had not only devoured Qing Song's spirit meridians, but it had also mercilessly devoured the spiritual energy they had injected into Qing Song's body. Die! Chu Fengmian didn't want to waste time and flicked his finger. Pine Tree's body began to swell as his spirit vein began to shatter. Ah! Pine Tree's face was twisted to the extreme. In this place of endless pain, his body directly exploded, turning into a cloud of blood mist. Not only that, but Qing Song's soul also burned with a colorless flame after leaving his body. The heavenly death seal was not only able to control Pine Tree's body, but also his soul. He had become Chu Fengmian's slave. Pine Tree's soul was incinerated in front of everyone. It was a tragic scene. Everyone, including the emperors, felt a chill down their spine. With this heavenly death seal, there was simply no way to break it. He would become Chu Fengmian's slave for eternity. Such a vicious method. The Qing true emperor glared at Chu Fengmian with murderous intent. Their Qing clan wanted to kill Chu Fengmian. Originally, they wanted to kill Chu Fengmian and divide his treasures. However, after seeing the seal, they became even more determined to kill Chu Fengmian. They would feel the same despair as Pine Tree if they were to be affected by this seal. Of course I have to use this method to deal with a traitor, Chu Fengmian said nonchalantly. Chu Fengmian's personality was like this. He clearly distinguished between gratitude and grudges. Whoever was good to him, Chu Fengmian would treat them with respect. If they dared to become enemies with Chu Fengmian, or even betray him, they would naturally end up like this. Next. Chu Fengmian glanced at Pine Tree. Jianwang's face turned pale after seeing Pine Tree's death. He didn't wait for Chu Fengmian to look and turned into a ray of light, flying into the void. He wanted to escape. However, as soon as he stepped into the void, a miserable shriek was heard. In the void, Jianwang's body exploded just like Qing Song's body had. His soul was incinerated by the colorless fire. Only his scream could be heard in the void. Now that the two traitors are dealt with, it's time to deal with you too. After killing Pine Tree and Jianwang, Chu Fengmian looked in the direction of the Fire Dragon King. Chu Fengmian's gaze fell on the Fire Dragon King. I said that I would kill you within a month. Today, it's time to fulfill my promise. You want to kill me? Hearing Chu Fengmian's words, the Fire Dragon King couldn't help but laugh. Chu Fengmian, I didn't expect you to be so arrogant. You don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Do you think you can still be so impudent with so many experts here? So what if there are so many experts? If I want to kill someone, no one can stop me. Chu Fengmian said disdainfully. At the same time, Chu Fengmian's figure made his move. Soaring Serpent Transformation. An illusory figure of a soaring serpent suddenly appeared behind Chu Fengmian and shrouded his body. It's the soaring serpent bloodline of our Hua family. An ancestor of the Hua family gnashed his teeth in anger when he saw the illusory figure of the soaring serpent behind Chu Fengmian. The soaring serpent bloodline originally belonged to the Hua family. How could he not be angry when it was controlled by Chu Fengmian? Wait, Chu Fengmian, release junior brother Jin Ju first. A disciple of the Holy Dragon's secret realm hurriedly said to Chu Fengmian. To them, saving young master Jin Ju was more important than killing Chu Fengmian. Release junior brother Jin Ju and we, the people of the Holy Dragon's secret realm, will not interfere in today's matter. Not interfere in today's matter? Then I'll give you a reason to interfere. Chu Fengmian suddenly laughed loudly when he heard the words of the Holy Dragon's secret realm disciple. Then, Chu Fengmian's hands suddenly tightened. Young master Jin Ju's body started to swell up in Chu Fengmian's hand. In the next instant, Jin Ju was crushed. The disciple of the Holy Dragon's secret realm, the genius young master Jin Ju from the Five Elements continent, was crushed to death by Chu Fengmian. Seeing this scene, the Fire Dragon King became extremely excited. If young master Jin Ju was in Chu Fengmian's hand, many of the experts present would have some misgivings and would not dare to make a move. After all, if young master Jin Ju died, none of them would be able to bear the responsibility. However, Chu Fengmian had killed young master Jin Ju. He was simply cutting off his own path of retreat. Damn it! Little bastard, you're courting death. Let's attack together and avenge junior brother Jin Ju. The three disciples of the Holy Dragon's secret realm looked on helplessly as Chu Fengmian crushed young master Jin Ju to death. Their expressions changed abruptly and they were extremely furious. They directly attacked Chu Fengmian. Secret techniques filled the sky. Over a dozen true emperors and 100 quasi-emperors attacked Chu Fengmian together in an instant. So many experts are attacking a junior together. Isn't it a little too much to bully the weak? The moment he struck out, the void was ripped apart once more as two figures stepped out from within. Chapter 12:22. Who is it? Someone actually dares to help this brat? Two figures tore through space and appeared next to Chu Fengmian. It was clear at a glance that they were here to help Chu Fengmian. Luya? Someone from the crystal-blessed land? The moment they saw the young girl's figure slowly appear, the expressions of many warriors changed slightly. Even the powerhouses of the three empires couldn't help but look surprised. When they saw the old man beside Luya, their eyes suddenly widened. A three-tribulation true emperor. Fire Dragon King glared at the old man and coldly said. His words couldn't hide his shock. A 3 Tribulation True Emperor. Who is it? Which expert is it? A 3 Tribulation True Emperor. This was already someone who stood at the peak of the Emperor realm. Most of the quasi-emperors here had only seen a few 1 Tribulation True Emperors. Even 2 Tribulation True Emperors were extremely rare. As for 3 Tribulation True Emperors, they were hidden old antiques in any power in the ancient monster continent. For example, Nirvana Dragon Lord, a 3 Tribulation True Emperor, rarely showed himself either. Nirvana Dragon Lord wouldn't have shown himself this time if it wasn't for the Myriad Dragon Banquet. Ancient Law Island Lord? Nirvana Dragon Lord glared at the old man and coldly snorted. Ancient Law Island Lord, does someone from the Crystal Blessed Land want a medal? This brat isn't from the Crystal Blessed Land. Isn't the Crystal Blessed Land neutral? What is the meaning of this? Others might not recognize the old man, but Nirvana Dragon Lord could tell who he was. Ancient Law Island Lord was an ancient true emperor in the Endless Sea. He had disappeared several thousand years ago. Therefore, the younger generation of the ancient monster continent had never heard of this name. However, Nirvana Dragon Lord was an old man and naturally knew who this island lord was. His gaze turned gloomy. The ancient Arts Island Lord was someone who had been famous for a long time. He was even older than him. The Nirvana Dragon Lord only had about 70 or so strands of natural laws. However, the young master of the ancient Spell Island Lord also had about 100 strands. Even though they were both 3 Tribulation True Emperors, Nirvana Dragon Lord's defeat was certain. There was still a gap between 3 Tribulation True Emperors. Ancient Law Island Lord was one of the best among them. Ancient Spell Island Master, you are also someone who has been famous for a long time. However, today's matter concerns the Holy Dragon Mystery Realm. I advise you not to interfere. No matter how strong the Crystal Blessed Land is, it is no match for the Holy Dragon Mystery Realm. The Fire Dragon King suddenly looked at Ancient Spell Island Master and asked. Even if you're not afraid of the Divine Dragon Empire, it's not wise to offend the Sacred Dragon Secret Realm. Moreover, this brat killed young noble Jin Ju. Do you want to face the wrath of true Emperor Jin Ju? The Fire Dragon King, Nirvana Dragon Monarch, and the others all knew this. Given the strength of this ancient Spell Island Master, he probably would not listen to the Divine Dragon Empire's threats. Thus, they brought up the Sacred Dragon Secret Realm and true Emperor Jin Ju. The Sacred Dragon Secret Realm was the holy ground of countless continents. Jin Ju was also a 7 Tribulation True Emperor. Even a powerful true emperor would have to think twice before dealing with these 2 factions. Oh? Are you threatening this old man? The Sacred Dragon Secret Realm and true Emperor Jin Ju are indeed people this old man cannot afford to offend. Unfortunately, this old man is only following orders today. Hearing the threats, Ancient Spell Island Master suddenly guffawed. Although Ancient Spell Island Master said that he could not afford to offend Jin Ju, he did not appear nervous at all. Today, I'm following orders. Missia said to protect this brat. Even if all the dragon sovereigns of your Divine Dragon Empire are here, this old man will not back down. Ancient Spell Island Master snorted coldly after saying that. Whoever dares to touch this brat will have to step over this old man's corpse first. Uncle Gu. Luya was slightly stunned when she heard this. Then, she expressed her gratitude. Many thanks, Uncle Gu. Missia, there's no need to be so polite. It's just my duty. Furthermore, our Crystal Blessed Land always repays favors. This person saved Missia's life. It's worth it for this old man to be buried here today. Ancient Spell Island Master guffawed. Come, then. It's been a long time since I stepped foot on the continent. Let this old man see how strong the fiend gods of the continent are now. After hearing Ancient Spell Island Master's words, the cultivators present fell silent. Many of them had not personally witnessed Ancient Spell Island Master's strength. However, most of them had heard of him before. Ancient Spell Island Master was an unparalleled genius. Today, they might have the advantage in numbers. Even if they killed Ancient Spell Island Master, most of the experts present would have to die with him. However, today was the best opportunity to kill Chu Fengmian. No one would be willing to leave now. The strength that Chu Fengmian displayed already made them want to kill him. If they did not kill Chu Fengmian, there would be no place for them in the future. Countless gazes turned to Nirvana Dragon Monarch. Among the 10-odd true emperors present, the only one who could contend with Ancient Spell Island Master was Nirvana Dragon Monarch, who was also a 3-tribulation true emperor. Ancient Spell Island Master, are you really going to meddle in other people's business today? Nirvana Dragon Monarch asked calmly as he looked at Ancient Spell Island Master. If you leave today, our Divine Dragon Empire will owe you a favor. The Divine Dragon Empire was one of the 3 great empires of the ancient monster continent. It was the true ruler. A favor was a great benefit for a true emperor. Clearly, Nirvana Dragon Monarch did not want to get into a conflict with Ancient Spell Island Master unless it was absolutely necessary. Forget about the favor. This old man is from Crystal Paradise and is only following orders. The Ancient Spell Island Master smiled and said nonchalantly. Very well. It seems like you refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. Ancient Spell Island Master, since you are an old senior, so what if you are strong? Today, you are only one person. I want to see how you will protect that brat Chu Fengmian before so many experts. Nirvana Dragon Monarch's expression turned gloomy as he spoke with murderous intent. I will delay this old man. You all go and kill Chu Fengmian. Yes. When the Fire Dragon King and the others heard this, they no longer bothered with the Ancient Spell Island Master. Nirvana Dragon Monarch might not be a match for Ancient Spell Island Master in a real battle, but he was still a 3-tribulation true emperor. Delaying Ancient Spell Island Master wasn't difficult for him. He just needed to delay Ancient Spell Island Master and wait for the others to kill Chu Fengmian. Little guy, be careful. Ancient Spell Island Master's expression turned serious as he whispered to Chu Fengmian. Ancient Spell Island Master, Luya, I appreciate your kindness for coming today, but I don't need you to interfere in today's matter. Chapter 1223. Today, I alone will be enough to take care of these guys. Chu Fengmian took a step forward and arrived before Island Lord Ancient Spell. This action meant that he did not need Island Lord Ancient Spell's protection. Has this brat gone mad? Could it be that his arrogance knows no bounds? Many martial artists and Yao gods were taken aback by Chu Fengmian's actions. They were all dumbfounded. At this moment, Island Lord Ancient Spell's arrival was like a life-saving straw to Chu Fengmian. But now, Chu Fengmian actually said that he did not need Island Lord Ancient Spell's help. Lunatic. This brat is definitely a lunatic. Yi Jianxiu and the others all sucked in a mouthful of cold air. This action was simply unimaginable to them even in their dreams. If they were in Chu Fengmian's shoes, they would definitely choose to join forces with Island Lord Ancient Spell and charge out. To push Island Lord Ancient Spell away now was simply courting death. Little brat, our crystal-blessed land is not afraid of trouble. Today's matter can be considered as repaying a debt of gratitude. You don't owe us anything, Island Lord Ancient Spell said to Chu Fengmian with a frown. This old man knows of your strength. However, no matter how strong you are, today's matter is not something a junior like you can handle. Repaying a debt of gratitude? Having the heart to repay a debt of gratitude is enough. I didn't save Luya for the debt of gratitude of your crystal-blessed land. Chu Fengmian looked at Island Lord Ancient Spell and said a few more words. Chu Fengmian had a very good impression of Luya and Island Lord Ancient Spell. Luya was someone who clearly distinguished between gratitude and grudges. At this moment, she still dared to stand out and help Chu Fengmian. From this, one could see Luya's character. Island Lord Ancient Spell was someone who only followed orders. He would obey his master's orders. Chu Fengmian was willing to be friends with them. Unfortunately, there was no need for them to interfere in today's matter. I alone am enough. Chu Fengmian took a step forward and stared at the Fire Dragon King. Come, whoever wants my body's opportunity, come and kill me. Sigh. After looking at Chu Fengmian for a long time, Island Lord Ancient Spell shook his head. Little friend, it seems that you don't want us to interfere. But, how could he possibly be a match for these people? Luya asked worriedly. It's normal for him to be proud and arrogant at such a young age. When the time comes, this old man will save him. Island Master Guefe slowly spoke. After which, he and Luya retreated to the side. He had no intention of interfering today. Ha ha ha. Brat, it seems like your arrogance knows no bounds. You actually dared to reject Island Lord Guefe's offer to help you. Very good. It is rare to see such a foolish and arrogant person like you. Nirvana Dragon Monarch roared with laughter. Since you want to die today, I'll fulfill your wish. Before the Nirvana Dragon Monarch could finish his sentence, the Fire Dragon King stepped forward and glared at Chu Fengmian with killing intent. Nirvana Dragon Lord, let me kill him. I must kill him with my own hands and wash away the shame he has brought me. You're just a bunch of ants and rats. There's no need to fight over it. You can all come together. That way, I won't have to kill you one by one. Chu Fengmian glanced at the martial artists in Yao God's present and laughed. Also, do you really think that you've forced me into a desperate situation? It's a pity that this is just a trap. If I don't lure all of you here, how can I kill all of you together? A trap? Upon hearing Chu Fengmian's words, many of the quasi-emperors' faces changed drastically and they looked around in panic. There's no need to look. If I want to kill all of you, it's as easy as stepping on a bunch of ants. I don't need to use any tricks. You're not worthy. Chu Fengmian said disdainfully. Arrogant. Upon hearing this, even the most good-tempered experts couldn't hold it in anymore. Chu Fengmian's every word was laced with mockery and disdain. He treated all of them as if they were nothing. Even the weakest martial artists and Yao gods were quasi-emperors. They could be considered as experts in the ancient monster continent. There were also many true emperors and young lords of major forces. How could they tolerate being belittled by Chu Fengmian? Wrath of the Dragon Flame. The Flame Dragon King's temper was the most explosive. He exploded in an instant as his body transformed into a gigantic flame dragon in the void. Golden flames were burning on the bodies of the fire dragons, incinerating everything in their surroundings into nothingness. Dragon Flame. Retreat. Many quasi-emperors felt the heat of the flame and quickly retreated. Dragon Flame was one of the most tyrannical flames in the world. Moreover, the Fire Dragon King was a second tribulation true emperor. His dragon flame had been strengthened by the laws of the world and was evolving into an innate divine flame. In the blink of an eye, a sea of fire roared towards Chu Fengmian. Under the sea of fire, there was no life. Any living thing would be incinerated. Chu Fengmian's body was pushed into the sea of fire in a flash. Endless dragon flames burned Chu Fengmian's body. Putting on an act for a long time? He can't even take one move from the Fire Dragon King. He fought the Fire Dragon King in the palace and lost a few moves. Does he really think he's a match for the Fire Dragon King? Many martial artists and demon gods spoke with disdain after seeing Chu Fengmian appear in the Sea of Fire. Many of them had no enmity with Chu Fengmian. They only chased after him out of jealousy. They were jealous that Chu Fengmian had so many encounters and wanted nothing more than to kill him. Many breathed a sigh of relief after seeing Chu Fengmian fall into the Sea of Fire. Dragon Flame is just SOSO. Just when everyone thought that Chu Fengmian had been incinerated in the Sea of Fire, suddenly, Chu Fengmian slowly walked out of the Sea of Fire. The scorching flames suddenly dissipated as soon as they got close to Chu Fengmian. The Sea of Fire couldn't stop him from leaving. Dragon Flame is ineffective? How is that possible? When the Fire Dragon King saw this, he was stunned. He then exclaimed in shock. Even a 3 or 4 tribulation true emperor wouldn't be able to deal with his dragon flame. Although it could be neutralized, no expert could do what Chu Fengmian did. As he walked through the sea of dragon flames, he treated the dragon flames like they were nothing. Surprised? Chu Fengmian sneered. Fire Dragon King, I can kill you in the palace if I want to. I've already spared you once, but since you've delivered yourself to me, you can die this time. Suddenly, Chu Fengmian attacked. He waved his hand and grabbed at the dragon flame. Chapter 12:24. The enormous sea of dragon flames was suddenly grabbed by Chu Fengmian. It was uprooted from the ground and landed in Chu Fengmian's palm. It turned into a small flame that danced in Chu Fengmian's palm. What kind of technique is this? The Fire Dragon King exclaimed when he saw the dragon flame dancing in Chu Fengmian's palm. This was Dragon Flame, one of the most domineering flames in the world. It was the most terrifying technique that the Fire Dragon King could use when fighting. But now, the dragon flame was actually completely useless before Chu Fengmian. It was even being held in the palm of Chu Fengmian's hand. Innate godly body. This man has an innate godly body. The Fire Dragon King stared at Chu Fengmian and shouted. There was only one kind of person who could do this, an innate godly body. What? Chu Fengmian has an innate godly body? Doesn't he have the bloodline of an innate divine beast? How could he have an innate godly body? Some of the martial artists and Yao gods went crazy when they heard this. They had heard about Chu Fengmian's experience. He had unparalleled swordsmanship and the bloodline of an innate divine beast. These were Chu Fengmian's arrogance and ability to fight above his level. However, they did not expect that this was not all. Chu Fengmian still had an innate godly body that could control flames. You are quite knowledgeable. Chu Fengmian smiled slightly when he heard this. Destroy. Chu Fengmian pointed his finger, and the dragon flame in his palm suddenly changed. The golden dragon flame was completely devoured by a colorless flame. What kind of flame is this? The Fire Dragon King stared at the colorless flame in Chu Fengmian's palm and asked in a trembling voice. The Fire Dragon King was born a fire dragon and was an expert in controlling flames. However, when he saw the colorless flame, he could not help but tremble. Pure Yang Heavenly Flame. This is Pure Yang Heavenly Flame. Nirvana Dragon Monarch could not help but exclaim when he saw the colorless flame in Chu Fengmian's palm. Pure Yang Heavenly Flame was one of the most domineering flames in the world. It came from the 9 heavens and could never be controlled by humans. Once the power of Pure Yang Heavenly Flame was unleashed, no one could stop it. Dragon soaring 9 heavens. Nirvana Dragon Lord had attacked in an instant. He could no longer hold himself back. Chu Fengmian's methods were beyond his imagination. He didn't want to waste any more time with Chu Fengmian. Nirvana Dragon Lord made his move brazenly. His body morphed into a huge Jianwang, and the space around him was controlled and sealed. Jianwang was the overlord of the Sky Demon clan. He had inherited the spatial techniques of their ancestor, Jianwang. Nirvana Dragon Lord had reached the level of a 3-tribulation true emperor. A total of 80 strands of worldly laws materialized in his body. The dragons roared, and the natural laws morphed into Tianwang lines before the Nirvana Dragon Lord. He took a step forward, traversing countless spaces, and suddenly punched at Chu Fengmian. The Tianwang lines roared at the same time and rushed towards Chu Fengmian. The surrounding space was frozen by this punch. Each of the 80 Tianwang lines was enough to kill a true emperor like Lu Daojun. What a terrifying technique! That's Nirvana Dragon Lord. A 3-tribulation true emperor with 80 universal laws. How terrifying! Many martial artists and Fey gods were amazed. Then, they looked at Chu Fengmian with disdain, as though they were looking at a dead man. So what if Chu Fengmian's talents were monstrous? Techniques weren't worth mentioning in the face of an absolute gap in cultivation. Chu Fengmian, you're indeed the most monstrous genius I've ever seen. I can even say that you're more monstrous than those geniuses from the sacred dragon secret realm. Nirvana Dragon Lord sneered while looking at Chu Fengmian. It's a pity that you're too arrogant and don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. The tallest tree in the forest will be destroyed by the wind. You're too monstrous and don't know when to advance or retreat. You'll only bring about your own destruction. Let's see how you'll deal with the universal laws. Rumble. The Jianwang lines in the sky followed Nirvana Dragon Lord's roar and rushed towards Chu Fengmian. The most terrifying one was Nirvana Dragon Lord's fist wind. He used his strongest punch as a three-tribulation true emperor and enveloped Chu Fengmian's body. A terrifying force descended on the spot. Crack! Crack! The layers of spiritual energy around Chu Fengmian began to shatter under the pressure of the fist. The terrifying power of the fist wind wanted to completely shatter Chu Fengmian's body. Island Master Guofei could not help but frown when he saw this. He was planning to intervene. However, before he could take a step forward, Chu Fengmian took a step forward and met him head-on. Is that so? Although the gap between our realms is huge, do you think that you're the only one who possesses the universal laws? Chu Fengmian's strength was firmly suppressed by the universal laws, but the corner of his mouth curled up into a cold smile as usual. Despite the immense pressure, Chu Fengmian's expression was as calm as ever. Suddenly, the moment the power of the fist completely descended, Chu Fengmian unsheathed the ancestral dragon supreme sword in his hand. A dazzling sword light soared into the sky. Under the sword light, numerous ancient war dragons soared into the sky and roared. An ancient aura was emitted from them. Ancient battle dragon bloodline. Nirvana Dragon Lord's eyes flashed with greed when he saw the ancient battle dragons condensing one after another. This bloodline was many times purer than his Jianwang bloodline. It's a pity that the ancient battle dragon bloodline has fallen into your hands. However, so what if your bloodline is noble? The power of the universal laws is not something you can surpass. Nirvana Dragon Lord roared. Universal suppression. Boom! The Jianwang bloodline formed by the universal laws shattered at the same time. The 80 universal laws merged into one. It soared into the sky and suppressed Chu Fengmian. You only have 80 universal laws. How dare you suppress me? All of you, break! Chu Fengmian laughed loudly. Suddenly, a dazzling light appeared on the ancestral dragon supreme sword. The light contained the pure power of the universe. The power of the universal laws was added to the ancestral dragon supreme sword. When Chu Fengmian stepped into the immortal realm, he opened the origin world and condensed a universal law that was comparable to 100 universal laws. After killing the clone of Heavenly Rock Emperor, he obtained a total of 81 universal laws. Chapter 12:25. The ancestral dragon supreme sword exuded a terrifying worldly law. One could clearly feel the power of heaven and earth from the ancestral dragon supreme sword in the entire space. Worldly law. Chu Fengmian also has worldly law. How is that possible? Chu Fengmian has also condensed worldly law. How many worldly law? Countless people looked at the ancestral dragon supreme sword in bewilderment. Condensing worldly law wasn't scary, but the number of worldly law was. For example, although the disciples in the sacred dragon secret dimension were all monstrous in strength, they would only have a 50-50 chance of winning against the Fire Dragon King. However, if they were facing the Nirvana Dragon Lord, they wouldn't even have the slightest chance of fighting back. They would be easily defeated by the Nirvana Dragon Lord. The difference in worldly law was several times greater than the Nirvana Dragon Lord. It was almost impossible for them to win. So what if you have worldly law? I don't believe that you can contend with me. The Nirvana Dragon Lord stared at Chu Fengmian and suddenly roared. Although he looked surprised, the Nirvana Dragon Lord soon sneered. Without stepping into the Emperor realm, it was much more difficult to condense world principles than to reach the Emperor realm. For example, the geniuses in the Sacred Dragon Mystery Dimension could only condense about 20 worldly law. As for the Nirvana Dragon Lord, he had a total of 80 worldly law. Even if Chu Fengmian was a monster, 40 worldly law should be his limit. The Nirvana Dragon Lord was of course not afraid. He sneered and condensed the power of worldly law and blasted it towards Chu Fengmian. Stupid. Seeing the Nirvana Dragon Lord's action, Chu Fengmian couldn't help but shake his head with a trace of disdain in his eyes. He held the ancestral dragon supreme sword in his hand and suddenly, the power of the sword shot up to the sky. Boom! 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 The sword radiance of the ancestral dragon supreme sword merged with the power of worldly law. Under the might of the sword, everything in its path crumbled like a landslide. The Nirvana Dragon Lord's worldly law was constantly eroded under the collision. Then, with an explosion, all the worldly law was shattered and sent flying. How is this possible? Many martial artists and Yao gods were dumbfounded by the sight. This was the full power of Nirvana Dragon Lord, a total of 80 laws of heaven and earth. But now, they were all shattered by Chu Fengmian's sword. In a clash of heaven and earth, the loser was Nirvana Dragon Lord. Impossible. This is impossible. Nirvana Dragon Lord was sent flying. However, he still had a look of disbelief on his face. However, in the next instant, Chu Fengmian's sword radiance had already landed on Nirvana Dragon Monarch's body. Boom! Countless laws of heaven and earth shrouded the Nirvana Dragon Lord, completely suppressing his spiritual energy. 181. How could this be? This was a universal law close to that of a four-tribulation true emperor. How could he possibly comprehend so much? After being suppressed by Chu Fengmian's laws of heaven and earth, Nirvana Dragon Monarch was finally enlightened. How many worldly laws were there on Chu Fengmian's body? 181 worldly laws, which was twice as many as the worldly laws on his body. This was something that he had never even dreamed of. Not only him, but many true emperors present were shocked when they heard about the 181 worldly laws. Then, their faces turned ashen. After stepping into the emperor realm, they finally understood how difficult it was to condense the laws of heaven and earth. Especially the 3 disciples of the sacred dragon's secret domain. Each of their faces turned extremely ugly. Almost without any hesitation, the 3 of them immediately activated their escape lights and planned to escape into the void. At this moment, all thoughts of avenging young Master Jin Ju and seizing Chu Fengmian's innate divine beast bloodline were gone. In their hearts, the only thing they wanted to do was to escape. Chu Fengmian's strength had already made them fearful. However, it was too late for them to escape now. Since Chu Fengmian had revealed all his trump cards, his plan for today was very clear. None of the enemies present would be able to leave alive today. Jianwang change. Seal. Chu Fengmian uttered a roar as another illusionary figure appeared behind him. The shadow of progenitor Jianwang condensed behind Chu Fengmian and immediately soared into the sky, shrouding the space above. Under the shadow of progenitor Jianwang, the surrounding space was much stronger than a heaven-grade spirit artifact. As Chu Fengmian obtained more and more worldly laws, he could truly unleash the power of the innate divine beast bloodline. Even a 3-tribulation true emperor couldn't escape, let alone them. Suppress. Chu Fengmian looked at the 3 disciples of the sacred dragon's secret domain. With a thought, the battle dragon claw condensed above Chu Fengmian's head and slammed down from the sky, bombarding them. The power of the 36,000 formations on the battle dragon claw was fully activated and its power erupted to the extreme. Even a 3-tribulation true emperor might not be able to withstand it. Fight! Seeing the descending battle dragon claw, the 3 disciples of the sacred dragon's secret domain understood that they were forced into a dead end. The 3 of them cut off all means of retreat and condensed all of their spiritual energy. They unleashed countless secret techniques to resist. Even the worldly laws on their bodies were burning. Their blood essence and worldly laws could be said to be the source of their power. At this moment, all of them were burning up. Right now, strength and foundation were nothing in front of life. As a sacred ground, the resources of the sacred dragon's secret domain had reached an unimaginable level. As long as they didn't die and escaped, they could recover no matter how serious their injuries were. The 3 disciples of the sacred dragon's secret domain burned the worldly laws together. A total of 50 worldly laws were activated. They turned into a monstrous golden light and bombarded Chu Fengmian's head from the sky. Not only did they have to resist the suppression of the battle dragon claw, but they also had to join forces to kill Chu Fengmian. The secret techniques of the disciples of the sacred dragon's secret domain are too terrifying. Island Lord Ancient Spell's eyes turned solemn. Even if it was him, under such a joint attack, even if he did not die, he would be seriously injured. Furthermore, this was merely a secret skill unleashed by 3 quasi-emperor-level disciples of the Holy Dragon Mystery Realm. Ancient Technique Heaven and Earth. Island Lord Ancient Spell took a step forward and condensed the yin-yang millstone in the sky. Just as he was about to attack, he was interrupted by Chu Fengmian. Chapter 1226. The moment Chu Fengmian grasped the Titanic Pagoda Divine Sword in his left hand, the sword intent on his body suddenly erupted. In an instant, Chu Fengmian's aura was no longer the same as before. Chu Fengmian's sword Dao was originally based on these 2 swords. The Ancestral Dragon Supreme Sword alone could only unleash half of Chu Fengmian's strength. As the Titanic Crescent Godly Sword was unsheathed, the surrounding sky changed color. It was as if even the surrounding sky and earth had submitted to Chu Fengmian's feet. When the 2 swords were unsheathed, the world was mine alone. Heaven-breaking dual swords. Chu Fengmian took a step forward. His expression was extremely calm. Facing the torrential sword light, he combined the 2 swords and slashed out. Stirrup. A sword cry filled the sky as a dazzling sword light soared into the sky. Even though the 3 disciples of the sacred dragon's secret realm were going all out, Chu Fengmian's sword intent still seemed to be superior. Boom! An incomparably loud explosion was heard. The 2 sword lights collided with the torrential golden radiance in the sky. The surging power engulfed everything in the surroundings. Crack! In the instant when the 2 forces collided, the outcome of the battle was decided. Chu Fengmian's sword light soared into the sky and shattered the torrential golden radiance in the sky. The moment the torrential golden radiance shattered, the 3 disciples of the sacred dragon's secret realm were forced to retreat repeatedly. The 3 of them did not even have the time to struggle. All of a sudden, the claw of a war dragon mercilessly descended and slammed into the bodies of the 3 of them. Rumble! The battle dragon's claw slammed down and the 3 sacred dragon's secret dimension disciples' defenses were shattered. In the face of the war dragon claw, all their resistance was meaningless. All of them were crushed and suppressed by the war dragon claw. At the same time, another battle dragon claw condensed in the sky and grabbed at the shattered golden radiance. Seeing the shattered golden radiance, the eyes of countless true emperors were filled with incomparable madness. These fragments of golden light were none other than the natural laws on the bodies of the 3 disciples of the sacred dragon's secret realm. Although they had been shattered by Chu Fengmian's power, they were still extremely powerful. However, if they were to obtain 1 or 2 of them, it would be a great fortune for them. Several true emperors couldn't wait any longer and attacked at the same time. They tried to grab the golden fragments in the sky. Waves of spiritual energy grabbed a portion of the broken golden light. Scram! Chu Fengmian frowned and snorted coldly. At the same time, Chu Fengmian directed the claw towards the emperors. Many true emperors didn't even have time to rejoice after grabbing some of the fragments before they were mercilessly killed by the dragon claw. There was no point in taking advantage of Chu Fengmian. Plus, Chu Fengmian had no intention of letting these emperors leave alive. 5 true emperors died to Chu Fengmian's claw. These emperors couldn't do anything before Chu Fengmian. The majority of them were either 1 or 2 tribulation emperors. They were even weaker than the Fire Dragon King. In front of Chu Fengmian, they were not even comparable to ants. With a wave of his hand, they were killed mercilessly. This scene was simply too shocking. This was especially true in the minds of many quasi-emperors. Anyone who could become a true emperor was an invincible ancestor, a terrifying character to the extreme. But now, Chu Fengmian's dragon claw swept across and killed 5 emperors. This method was tyrannical to the extreme and shook the minds of these quasi-emperors. These 2 tribulation true emperors were mere ants before Chu Fengmian. Such a terrifying scene appeared in front of them. Moreover, Chu Fengmian was merely an immortal realm supreme ancestor. He wasn't even a quasi-emperor yet. San Rong's appearance was enough to change their imaginations of the eternal realm. Many quasi-emperors couldn't even dream that an eternal realm cultivator could possess such terrifying strength. But now, San Rong wasn't even fit to carry Chu Fengmian's shoes. Quasi-emperor San Rong was invincible while Chu Fengmian could kill true emperors with a wave of his hand. A total of 50 worldly laws. Meanwhile, Chu Fengmian gathered the worldly laws from the emperors along with the remaining golden light into his palm and condensed them again. There were a total of 50 worldly laws. It's a pity that the disciples of the Holy Dragon's secret domain had burned a lot of worldly laws. Otherwise, I could have gotten around 70. Chu Fengmian murmured to himself. Although Chu Fengmian had mercilessly broken through the all-out explosion of the sacred dragon's secret dimension's disciples by burning the laws of heaven and earth, the power of that attack had consumed 20 strands of the laws of heaven and earth. It was a pity that these 20 laws of the heavens and earth were expended. But now wasn't the time to think about this. Chu Fengmian's gaze swept across the crowd. The coldness in his eyes made people shudder. Today, there were more worldly laws waiting for Chu Fengmian. Fire Dragon King. Chu Fengmian's gaze swept across the crowd and immediately saw the Fire Dragon King. Chu Fengmian had ordered the Fire Dragon King to be killed. Letting him live would be a slap to Chu Fengmian's face. Die! Chu Fengmian didn't waste any time. He pointed the sword in his hand and a dazzling sword chi shot out from the sky. The target was the Fire Dragon King. The moment the Fire Dragon King sensed the power contained in the sword chi, his face turned ashen and he shouted in panic. Nirvana Dragon Lord, save me! At this moment, the only one who could fight Chu Fengmian was the Nirvana Dragon Lord. Humph! The Nirvana Dragon Lord snorted when he saw the sword chi coming from Chu Fengmian. He took a step forward and blocked the Fire Dragon King. Suddenly, a heavenly dragon's claw blasted towards the sword chi. Nirvana Dragon Lord, you can't even protect yourself. How dare you attack? Do you think I can't kill you? You're just a 3 tribulation true emperor. It's still easy for me to kill you. Chu Fengmian let out a long cry and shouted. Sword Master of Heaven and Earth. As soon as his voice faded, his 2 swords seemed to have become the master of the world. The world was subdued under Chu Fengmian's feet. Myriad eras trembled under his feet. Chapter 12:27. Strands of golden sword energy flew out from Chu Fengmian's body and circled around him. This was the supreme sword energy, a total of 1,000 strands. Chu Fengmian's sword Dao improved even further when the 1,000 supreme sword chi flew out. Rumor has it that the supreme sword energy was the closest to the origin of the sword Dao. Chu Fengmian's sword principle had reached the pinnacle. He was only 1 step away from the origin of sword principle. In Chu Fengmian's hand, the supreme sword chi merged with Chu Fengmian's sword will and complemented each other. It could be said that other than the lord of the sword Wei who had perished, the supreme sword chi had become one. The supreme sword energy could unleash its most terrifying power in Chu Fengmian's hands. Supreme sword energy. A supreme treasure of the sword Dao. Damn it, he has 1,000 strands of supreme sword energy. This person's swordsmanship is already so terrifying. On top of that, he has the power of the supreme sword chi. The remaining true emperors were alarmed. The appearance of the boundless sword chi caused Chu Fengmian's aura to soar. The current Chu Fengmian was simply invincible. Anyone who dared to stand in front of Chu Fengmian would only end up dead. Nirvana Dragon Lord. I'm here to help you. Boom! A few hidden true emperors couldn't wait any longer. An old man with a saber came to Nirvana Dragon Lord's side. With a boom, the blade in his hand slashed toward Chu Fengmian. Sun Dao. Supreme Elder of Sun Clan. A 3 tribulation true emperor. Seeing the arrival of this old man, the Sun family's group of cultivators were all overjoyed. Nirvana Dragon Lord's expression relaxed a bit. It was rare for him to have the help of a 3 tribulation true emperor at this juncture. Another one coming to die? Chu Fengmian wasn't surprised to see Sun Dao. With his spiritual awareness, he could see that there were many experts hiding in the void. Moreover, Chu Fengmian purposely tore a crack in Tianwang's power. Otherwise, given Sun Dao's strength, he would not even be able to tear space apart. Chu Fengmian, don't be so arrogant. There have been many geniuses in history, but they're only geniuses, not experts. Sun Dao glared at Chu Fengmian and said coldly. You're the same. Arrogance will only bring destruction. Even if you're a monster, you'll still die today. Brother Sun is right. The appearance of such a monster is a misfortune for the ancient monster continent. It's a good thing that he's dead. Another voice came from the void. Bai Wuqing. Supreme ancestor of Bai clan, he's also a three-tribulation true emperor. An old man slowly appeared. His expression was extremely calm, as if nothing could affect him at all. Bai Wuqing was a supreme elder of clan. Chu Fengmian's, Bai Wuqing, Nirvana Dragon Lord Nirvana, Brother Sun Dao, Dragon Lord, Sunday. Bai Wuqing glared at Chu Fengmian with murderous intent. Kill yourself now and you'll feel better. Three tribulation true emperors. Seeing this scene, many quasi-emperors were so scared that they almost fainted. Three tribulation true emperors were old antiques of the great powers. They wouldn't normally show themselves. But now, three of them came together to deal with Chu Fengmian. Their only goal was to kill him. Three tribulation true emperors are working together to kill an eternal supreme ancestor. This guy's name will go down in history even if he dies. A quasi-emperor looked at Chu Fengmian and murmured. He was now full of admiration for Chu Fengmian. It was already unimaginable that an immortal realm ancestor could reach this level. Three tribulation true emperors gave up their dignity and joined forces to attack Chu Fengmian. Chu Fengmian would only be a legend even if he were to die. Although many of the quasi-emperors admired Chu Fengmian, they all wanted Chu Fengmian to die. Chu Fengmian was too monstrous. As long as Chu Fengmian was around, they would never be able to make a name for themselves. Chu Fengmian's monstrous talent was like a mountain pressing down on them. They couldn't surpass him no matter what they did. Oh no! Beside him, Island Master Ancient Spell wore a dark expression. He was confident that he could take Chu Fengmian away if there was only one Nirvana Dragon Monarch. However, if there were three tribulation true emperors, he and Chu Fengmian could barely contend against them. But now, there were three tribulation true emperors. Even if he had heaven-defying means, he might not be able to take Chu Fengmian away. This brat's performance is too monstrous. Even this old man wants to kill him. Island Lord Ancient Law looked at Chu Fengmian and murmured. What a pity. If he reaches the Emperor realm, I'm afraid not many people in the ancient monster continent will be able to deal with him. Even though Chu Fengmian was only in the immortal realm, he already possessed such terrifying power. Once Chu Fengmian advanced in his realm, his strength would also increase exponentially. Once Chu Fengmian reached the Emperor realm, he would become one of the most terrifying true emperors. Uncle Gu? What should we do? Luya said nervously from the side. Three tribulation true emperors? Even though she came from a power like the Crystal Paradise, she was still afraid of this lineup. This brat saved Misya's life. Today, this old man will take him away even if I have to risk my life. Island Lord Ancient Law secretly transmitted his voice to Chu Fengmian. Brat, run now and I'll help you stop them. Oh? Thank you for your kindness, but it's only three true emperors. This Chu Fengmian can still fight them. Chu Fengmian smiled when he heard Ancient Spell Island Master's voice transmission. It wasn't that he didn't want to run. However, three tribulation true emperors might be powerful, but they weren't strong enough to make him run away. Three tribulation true emperors, not bad. I didn't expect you all to think so highly of this Chu. Chu Fengmian swept his gaze over and laughed. Even in the face of three tribulation true emperors, Chu Fengmian stood there with a faint smile on his face. It seemed that no matter how big the threat was, Chu Fengmian would never put it in his heart. So arrogant. Chapter 12:28. However, Chu Fengmian wasn't afraid at all. The three emperors were no different from ordinary people in his eyes. In Chu Fengmian's eyes, these three emperors were already dead. "Brat, you're about to die, and you still dare to be arrogant?" Seeing Chu Fengmian's fearless face, Sun Dao's face turned sinister. "Junior, you once killed a disciple of my Sun family. Today is the day you will be buried with my Sun family's disciple." Slash. Blade Sun's aura suddenly changed. His gaze was like a sharp blade as he looked at Chu Fengmian. In an instant, the long blade in his hand was unsheathed. In an instant, he charged toward Chu Fengmian to kill him. Sword. Chu Fengmian didn't waste any time. His eyes narrowed in the face of the incoming blade light. The tip of the sword in his hand pointed to the sky, and a sword slashed through the air. Wah! Wherever the sword edge passed, the void was split open. Following a loud explosion, the saber and sword collided in the air. Sun Dao's saber technique had already reached the pinnacle. If he was a sword cultivator, he would have already stepped into the sword god realm. However, Chu Fengmian's swordsmanship had already reached the peak of swordsmanship. The blade of Chu Fengmian's sword was much sharper. As the saber and sword clashed, Sun Dao's saber was instantly destroyed. The sharp sword light was aimed straight at Sun Dao's body. Roar! Just as the sword tip slashed towards Sun Dao, a beastly roar resounded. Following a roar, Bai Wuqing's figure soared into the sky and turned into an enormous ancient serpent. Bai Wuqing and Nirvana Dragon Lord attacked Chu Fengmian at the same time. The three of them came here today because they already had the intention to kill Chu Feng. Now, there was no need for any concealment. The three of them attacked Chu Fengmian with countless martial skills and spiritual energies. "It doesn't matter how many of you come. Today, you won't be able to kill me. Instead, you'll be sending yourselves to your deaths. Today, I will kill you and make you a part of my power." Chu Fengmian yelled at the three venerable sovereigns. Boom! His body moved. Facing the joint attack of the three sovereigns, Chu Fengmian did not retreat. Instead, he took a step forward and rushed forward. Fighting against three tribulation true emperors all by himself was a different story. This kind of domineering, this kind of madness, was something that countless people could not even dream of. Ancient Dragon King body. The power of the Tree of God. Bless me. Layers of golden dragon scales began to appear around Chu Fengmian's body. The attacks from the three tribulations were stopped by this layer of dragon scales. 99% of the power was blocked by the golden dragon scales. Chu Feng's divine tree could stop an attack from Celestial Rock King, let alone three emperors. His body moved through the bombardment of countless forces. It was as if no matter how powerful the bombardment was, it was unable to truly harm Chu Fengmian. This kind of aura was indomitable, as if he was the only one in the entire universe. Dual swords to break the heavens. His body withstood the barrage of attacks as he rushed towards the three emperors with his two spirit swords in hand. Sun Dao, Nirvana Dragon Lord, and the others had never imagined that Chu Fengmian's body would be this tough. After all, they were experts who had experienced countless battles of life and death. After a brief moment of surprise, they calmed down in the blink of an eye. Everyone's spiritual energy erupted to the extreme as they each attacked, unleashing countless surging spiritual energy. Sun Dao was the first to attack. A dazzling golden ray emerged from the edge of his saber. This ray contained the power of the heaven and earth. The worldly laws of Sun Dao's body were completely integrated into this golden ray. 100 strands of worldly laws were condensed into this ray. Sun Dao's power was much stronger than Nirvana Dragon Lord's. Void of heaven and earth. Sun Dao roared and slashed forward. This slash wanted to destroy the world and turn it into nothingness. It was a terrifying slash capable of extinguishing all life. Not a bad saber art. Unfortunately, you can't use all of its power with your current strength. 100 strands of worldly laws is too little. 1,000 or even 10,000 strands of worldly laws wouldn't be enough to unleash even 1% of its power. Chu Fengmian looked at Sun Dao and murmured. He could see that this saber art was definitely one of the most profound in the world. It must have come from an ancient lineage. Sun Dao's current strength couldn't unleash even a little bit of this saber art. Saber and sword are of the same origin. This saber art will only be buried in your hands. Give it to me. Chu Fengmian laughed out loud. He was not afraid at all in the face of the blade. The sword in his hand didn't stop shining. It looked normal, but when Chu Fengmian's sword moved, the surrounding heaven and earth dimmed. Sword hymns could be heard everywhere in this world. One sword and the world changes. Is this the legendary realm of the Sword Dao? Our continent hasn't seen such a scene for tens of thousands of years. How is this possible? An ancient true emperor murmured. Countless cultivators and demonic gods were shocked. The Sword Dao that permeated the world made them fall into a world of swords. The power of one sword was enough to affect the world. Die! Chu Fengmian's eyes turned cold as he attacked with both swords. Crack! The moment the two rays of sword light landed, Sun Dao's blade was mercilessly broken. It was not only his saber intent. Even his long saber had crumbled and shattered. It was completely shattered. Although Sun Dao's long saber was not an extreme immortal weapon, it was still one of the best heaven-grade spirit weapons. However, it had been shattered by Chu Fengmian's sword in Sun Dao's hand. Even the 100 strands of worldly laws turned into golden rays and were sent flying. The 100 strands of worldly laws drifted in the sky. Chu Fengmian looked at the sky. With a single thought, a dragon claw condensed above his head. Facing the hundreds of laws of the heaven and earth that filled the sky, he grabbed out with his hand. A 3 tribulation true emperor was seriously injured by Chu Fengmian. The worldly laws were sent flying. Oh no, stop him! Nirvana Dragon Lord and Bai Wuqing were aghast. Chapter 1229. They didn't expect Chu Fengmian to be able to defeat Sun Dao so easily. Book Net. If Chu Fengmian were to obtain Sun Dao's worldly laws, it would be impossible for him to defeat Chu Fengmian. Bai Wuqing and Nirvana Dragon Lord also ordered the other true emperors and quasi-emperors to surround Chu Fengmian. Chu Fengmian's power was indeed frightening. The quasi-emperors and true emperors here could be killed with a wave of his hand. However, even ants could bite an elephant to death. How could the remaining true emperors be considered ants? Even if Chu Fengmian was strong, he would still die under the lead of 3 tribulation true emperors and several other true emperors and quasi-emperors. The experts here followed Bai Wuqing and Nirvana Dragon Lord's orders and attacked together. 3 tribulation true emperors, several true emperors, and 100 quasi-emperors attacked Chu Fengmian in an attempt to kill him. The ancient monster continent hasn't seen such an unprecedented battle for several hundred years. Does he want to fight head-on? Ancient Spell Island Lord stared intensely at Chu Fengmian. Even a top 3 tribulation true emperor like him wouldn't be able to last more than a second before dying for sure. Under such circumstances, facing the bombardment of so many experts, choosing to take it head-on was simply courting death. However, when he looked at Chu Fengmian, he saw that Chu Fengmian had no intention of backing down. Boom! At the moment when countless experts were attacking Chu Fengmian's expression changed drastically. Time seemed to have stopped. Beside Chu Fengmian, the sword will formed by his heaven-shaking swordsmanship was shattered by the shocking power in an instant. 3 tribulation true emperors, several true emperors, and 100 quasi-emperors worked together. This might be beyond the level of a 4 tribulation true emperor. The martial artists and Yao gods present all looked at Chu Fengmian. They all felt that Chu Fengmian was doomed. It was impossible for anyone to be able to survive such a powerful attack. Perhaps some legendary patriarchs could withstand the bombardment of such power, but Chu Fengmian was only a patriarch of the immortal realm. How could Ancestor Wu, who had not even stepped into the quasi-emperor realm, withstand such a terrifying attack? Boom! Boom! A huge force bombarded Chu Fengmian's body, shrouding the sword while emanating from Chu Fengmian's body and compressing it. The golden dragon scales on Chu Fengmian's body continued to shatter. The ancient dragon emperor body could not withstand such a powerful force and began to shatter. Myriad worlds. Devour the heavens and earth. Chu Fengmian suddenly opened his eyes, his gaze fixed on the myriad realms. Behind Chu Fengmian, the soaring serpent, progenitor Jianwang, and the heaven-devouring beast were on full display. The heaven-devouring beast was the strongest amongst the three natural divine beasts. Progenitor Jianwang, Teng Shi, and Chu Fengmian all obtained a strand of his bloodline. As for the heaven-devouring beast, Chu Fengmian obtained his heart. Even though the power of the heaven-devouring beast's heart had been lost for countless years, it was still the heaven-devouring beast's heart. A heart slowly flew out in front of Chu Fengmian. It was the heaven-devouring beast's heart that Chu Fengmian had obtained. Heaven-devouring! Chu Fengmian roared. The heaven-devouring beast's heart flew high into the sky and turned into a huge vortex in front of Chu Fengmian. The vortex was so big that it completely shrouded Chu Fengmian. It was so deep that one could not see the bottom. The combined power of countless experts bombarded the vortex and was continuously devoured by the rotating vortex. Heaven-devouring secret technique. Some demon gods of the ancient serpent empire stared at Chu Fengmian and muttered to themselves. They had heard of the legends of the bloody world, but they did not expect Chu Fengmian to be able to use the heaven-devouring secret technique. Moreover, that was not all. That heart contained the pure power of a Xiantian god beast. Heaven-devouring beast's heart. Countless eyes stared at the heaven-devouring beast's heart that had turned into a vortex. No matter how one thought about it, the value of the natural divine beast's heart was clear. It was much more valuable than countless heaven-grade spiritual weapons. Whoever was able to obtain it was definitely a great opportunity and fortune. This person really did obtain the heaven-devouring beast's heart. Bai Wuqing looked at Chu Fengmian and said slowly. Although they knew a thing or two about what had happened in the bloody world, it was still mainly a guess. Now that they saw Chu Fengmian take out the heaven-devouring beast's heart, their guess was confirmed. The heaven-devouring beast's heart was indeed obtained by Chu Fengmian. It was even controlled by Chu Fengmian to unleash the heaven-devouring secret technique. The heaven-devouring secret technique could devour the heavens. The moment they saw the heaven-devouring secret technique, many of the demon gods present felt the urge to retreat. Don't be afraid. This kid is just barely using the heaven-devouring secret technique. That heaven-devouring beast has been dead for God knows how long. The heart's power is less than 1/10,000th of its peak power. Now that it has been forcefully activated by this kid, it won't last long. Bai Wuqing suddenly shouted coldly. Let's attack together and break the heaven-devouring secret technique. This kid has no other tricks up his sleeve. Bai Wuqing took the lead and punched at the vortex. The wind from his punch was like a scorching sun descending from the sky, burning everything as it entered the vortex. Nirvana Dragon Monarch, the remaining true emperors, and quasi-emperors no longer hesitated when they saw this scene. They erupted with endless power and bombarded the vortex. That power was simply capable of piercing through even the strongest defense. The moment the endless power entered the vortex, the heaven-devouring beast's heart behind the vortex showed signs of cracking. Although the cracks were very weak, they could not escape Bai Wuqing's eyes. As expected, this kid can only use the heaven-devouring secret technique by force. The heaven-devouring beast's heart can't hold on much longer. Kill! Seeing the cracks on the heaven-devouring beast's heart, the demon gods present were filled with murderous intent. As long as they could break the heaven-devouring beast's heart, they would be able to kill Chu Fengmian. In an instant, the power increased by several times. Almost every quasi-emperor unleashed their full strength and used their trump cards. The vortex formed by the heaven-devouring secret technique expanded under the bombardment of countless spiritual energies. It was about to explode. The heaven-devouring beast's heart was already full of cracks. Break! Nirvana Dragon Monarch roared. Tianlong's body shot out a ray of divine light and bombarded the center of the vortex. Chapter 1230. Great! The heaven-devouring beast's heart has been punctured. Nirvana Dragon Lord exclaimed excitedly as the crack on the heaven-devouring beast's heart shattered. He moved his body and rushed toward Chu Fengmian. However, after the crack on the heaven-devouring beast's heart shattered, the huge vortex in the sky did not shrink. Instead, it expanded even more. The power of the heaven-devouring secret technique did not weaken under the bombardment. Instead, it grew stronger. What's going on? Why is the power of the heaven-devouring secret technique not weakening? The heaven-devouring beast's heart should have been punctured. Nirvana Dragon Lord, Bai Wuqing, and the others stared at the heaven-devouring secret technique in disbelief. They had thought that the heaven-devouring beast's heart had been punctured. However, the scene before them had far exceeded their expectations. After breaking the crack on the heaven-devouring beast's heart, the power of the heaven-devouring beast's heart grew even stronger. Nirvana Dragon Lord, Bai Wuqing, it seems like I have to thank the both of you. Without you, it would not have been easy for me to refine the heaven-devouring beast's heart. Chu Fengmian stood in the sky and looked at the heaven-devouring beast's heart. With a slight movement of his hand, the heaven-devouring beast's heart fell into his palm and spun slowly. After the crack on the heaven-devouring beast's heart shattered, it shrunk countless times until it was only the size of Chu Fengmian's fist. However, the power contained within was many times stronger than before. Although Chu Fengmian had obtained the heaven-devouring beast's heart, he could no longer control its power. There were extremely dense seals on the heaven-devouring beast's heart. If Chu Fengmian were to break the seals alone, he would have to expend a lot of effort. However, Chu Fengmian had borrowed the power of the quasi-emperors and true emperors to break the seals on the heaven-devouring beast's heart. Although their bombardment had been directed into the heaven-devouring secret technique, it could only withstand the seals on the heaven-devouring beast's heart. Now that the seals had been broken, Chu Fengmian could truly control the power of the heaven-devouring beast's heart. Damn it! Bai Wuqing suddenly shouted. He was getting more and more furious. Their joint bombardment had now become Chu Fengmian's wedding dress. Don't be afraid. This kid can only use this method once. Let's join forces and attack him again. He'll definitely die. As Bai Wuqing spoke, he once again gathered his spiritual energy and attacked. A snake shadow slowly condensed as it prepared for this earth-shattering killing move. Nirvana Dragon Lord, Sun Dao, and the others also started to gather spiritual power. But at this moment, Chu Fengmian's figure moved. After refining the heaven-devouring beast's heart, Chu Fengmian could truly control the heaven-devouring secret skill. It was time to unleash the heaven-devouring secret skill. After devouring these people, Chu Fengmian's strength would increase to another level. Swallow the heavens! Chu Fengmian roared. His body seemed to swell up. All the worlds in the universe had submitted to Chu Fengmian. Chu Fengmian was tall and majestic. At a glance, it was as if the real heaven-devouring beast had been resurrected. The heaven-devouring beast's heart had completely fused with Chu Fengmian's bloodline and fused into Chu Fengmian's body. At this moment, Chu Fengmian's vitality became many times stronger. This was the heart of an innate divine beast. It was much stronger than the bloodline. Now that it had fused with Chu Fengmian's body, his aura had increased by many times. Chu Fengmian took a step forward and opened his mouth. A vortex that was dozens or even hundreds of times larger than the one before suddenly appeared. The vortex slowly rotated and everything in the universe was mercilessly devoured. Boom! The void was completely devoured. Many quasi-emperors and true emperors' expression changed drastically. In front of the vortex, all of them could feel the impending doom. Once they were swallowed by it, they would die without a doubt. The quasi-emperors and true emperors didn't need anyone to remind them. They joined forces and set up a huge ancient formation to resist the heaven-devouring secret skill. Join forces. Kill! At this time, Nirvana Dragon Lord also unleashed his ultimate move. The dragons roared as they tore through the sky and charged towards Chu Fengmian. However, Chu Fengmian's expression didn't change at all when he saw the Jianwang flying towards him. In fact, he even showed some disdain. Devour. Chu Fengmian's mind moved and the vortex of the heaven-devouring secret skill turned into a bottomless black hole. The Jianwang flying towards him were mercilessly devoured by the black hole. In almost an instant, Nirvana Dragon Monarch's ultimate move was easily neutralized. Devouring the heavens. This move is indeed capable of devouring the heavens. This is the true power of the heaven-devouring beast. Chu Fengmian's lips curled into a cold smile. Now that these people had besieged Chu Fengmian, he wouldn't let any of them go today. Sword. Chu Fengmian called out and the power of the two spiritual swords in his hands was pushed to the extreme. All of a sudden, the two spiritual swords descended from the sky and violently smashed towards the crowd. Boom! Even though countless true emperors and quasi-emperors had joined forces, the huge ray formation was still torn apart by the two swords. Countless quasi-emperors were sent flying by the impact. The quasi-emperors who were sent flying didn't even have time to resist before their bodies were sucked in by an incomparably huge suction force. They were all targeted by the heaven-devouring secret skill and their bodies were directly devoured by the vortex. Within the heaven-devouring secret skill, their blood essence and everything about them were completely devoured. Only miserable screams were left as the other quasi-emperors present watched their bodies being mercilessly devoured by the heaven-devouring secret skill. In just an instant, several quasi-emperors had fallen into the heaven-devouring secret skill and were mercilessly devoured. This was merely the prelude. Boom! Chu Fengmian waved his hand and a huge vortex soared into the sky. This vortex covered the heavens and was about to mercilessly devour the entire space. This is too terrifying. Is this really something an immortal realm martial artist can do? Standing at the side, Island Master Ancient Spell was completely dumbfounded. Chapter 1231. The current Chu Fengmian could kill quasi-emperors as easily as stepping on ants. Even true emperors were only slightly stronger ants. All of this was simply shocking, especially when Chu Fengmian was just an immortal realm warrior. No one in history had been able to do all this as an immortal. Fortunately, we did not make an enemy out of this person. Island Lord Ancient Spell muttered to himself as he looked at Chu Fengmian. Dealing with the current Chu Fengmian was not a problem for the Crystal Blessed Land's forces. However, if they provoked Chu Fengmian and failed to kill him, Chu Fengmian would become a true nightmare for them. Damn it! How can this person be so strong? Nirvana Dragon Monarch stared at Chu Fengmian in disbelief. Even though all of this was happening right in front of him, he still couldn't believe it. This person's strength is no longer something we can deal with. We need at least a 4 Tribulation True Emperor, no, a 5 Tribulation True Emperor to kill him. Bai Wuqing said slowly as he looked at Chu Fengmian. Let's go. But these disciples. Sun Dao said reluctantly as he looked at the disciples of the Sun Clan. These disciples of the Sun Clan could be considered the elites of the Sun Clan's younger generation. If all of them died here today, it would be a great loss to the Sun Clan. Brother Sun, as long as the Green Hills remain, there is no need to worry about firewood. Furthermore, it's just a few young disciples. When we kill this person in the future, we can make up for all our losses. Bai Wuqing snorted coldly. His name was Wuqing, and he was ruthless when he did things. Alright, let's work together and fight our way out. Sun Dao said resolutely after hesitating for a moment. Just as the heaven-devouring secret technique was about to devour them, the 3 of them suddenly vanished. The 3 of them turned into 3 streaks of light and flew out of the void. The 3 of them were the 3 largest formation cores of this ancient formation. Now that the 3 of them were fleeing, the formation was completely destroyed. Now that the 3 of them were gone, the ancient grand formation lost its energy source and shattered. Damn it! The Nirvana Dragon Monarch and the others are abandoning us. A quasi-emperor of the Divine Dragon Empire roared furiously. Elder Bai Wuqing. The disciples of the Bai clan turned pale. Who would have thought that they would be directly abandoned? Once the formation was broken, the emperors and half-emperors were engulfed by the sky-devouring secret art. As the heaven-devouring secret technique revolved, it devoured their bodies. Both quasi-emperors and true emperors couldn't last more than a second inside this secret art. Their bodies were mercilessly crushed. Chufengmian, I'm a disciple of the Five Mountain Sword Sect. Our Five Mountain Sword Sect is filled with experts. If you let me go, we'll never be your enemy again. Yi Jianxiu was shrouded by the sky-devouring secret technique. His face was extremely pale as he hurriedly spoke to Chufengmian. However, his words only received a disdainful sneer from Chufengmian. Five Mountain Sword Sect? Chufengmian could kill the disciples of the Holy Dragon Mystery Plane as he pleased. Why would he care about them? As Chufengmian laughed coldly, Yi Jianxiu's body was mercilessly crushed. His essence blood was converted into Chufengmian's power by the heaven-devouring secret technique. Hundreds of quasi-emperors and several true emperors were mercilessly devoured by the sky-devouring secret technique and turned into Chufengmian's power. This method, this is too terrifying, Luya said in a daze after seeing Chufengmian kill hundreds of quasi-emperors with one move. She originally thought that she still had the strength to fight against Chufengmian, but after seeing this scene, she knew that she was just an ant. In front of Chufengmian, she was nothing more than an ant. Geniuses and monsters weren't worth mentioning in front of Chufengmian. Chufengmian was the only one throughout the ages. Even in history, there had never been a monster like Chufengmian. What an enormous amount of blood energy. If I accumulate this amount of blood energy, it will be enough for my cultivation to take another step forward. Chufengmian murmured to himself as he sensed the blood energy within the sky-devouring secret technique. The blood chi of a quasi-emperor might not be much to Chufengmian, but the blood chi of hundreds of quasi-emperors was an incomparably huge number to him. Moreover, there were also the blood energy of several true emperors. Their blood energy and worldly laws were mercilessly devoured by Chufengmian. However, these weren't the main dish. The worldly laws of the three tribulation true emperors were what Chufengmian wanted the most. Want to run? In front of me, even space is under my control. You have nowhere to run. Chufengmian's eyes shifted towards Nirvana Dragon Lord, Sun Dao, and Bai Wuqing. With a tap of his finger, the surrounding space was completely sealed. Rumble. The power of Jianwang transformation was channeled by Chufengmian once more. In order to lure Sun Dao and Bai Wuqing here, Chufengmian retracted the power of Jianwang transformation. In the blink of an eye, the power of space descended along with the 181 worldly laws that flew out from Chufengmian's body. These worldly laws supported the Jianwang transformation, strengthening the surrounding space by countless times. Brat, do you really want to fight to the death with us? Seeing that the space had been completely sealed, Nirvana Dragon Lord turned to Chufengmian and said coldly, "What are you waiting for? Fighting to the death won't do anyone any good." "That's right, brat. You're strong, but you'll have to pay a great price if you want to fight to the death with us. Even if we can't kill you, we can still injure you severely." Bai Wuqing looked at Chufengmian and said, "You have countless enemies right now. Once you're injured, I'm afraid the Five Mountain Sword Sect and Heavenly Ping Empire won't let you go and will hunt you down mercilessly. Let's both take a step back and let us go. We can also guarantee that we won't cause you any more trouble. Otherwise, we'll fight to the death today." Sun Dao glared at Chufengmian and coldly said, "Take a step back?" Chufengmian looked at the three and suddenly revealed a smirk. "You think you three trash have the ability to fight to the death with me? In front of me, the three of you are just like ants. Killing the three of you is as easy as slaughtering chickens. Once I kill you and devour your worldly laws, I won't be afraid of the Five Mountain Sword Sect. Heavenly Ping Empire?" Chapter 1232. You! Brat, you are too arrogant. Nirvana Dragon Lord, Bai Wuqing, and Sun Dao were fuming with anger when they heard Chufengmian's words. On the other side of the phone, the three of them had been famous for a long time. Now that they were negotiating with Chufengmian, a junior, they were already giving Chufengmian some face. But now Chu Fengmian was asking them to kill themselves. How could they tolerate this? Chu Fengmian, it's not certain who will die today. Nirvana Dragon Lord said coldly. With the three of us working together, we can still kill you. Is that so? Then let's fight. Hearing Nirvana Dragon Lord's words, Chu Fengmian smiled casually. You are just an ant. How can you overturn the heavens? Kill! Hearing this, Sun Dao and Bai Wuqing could no longer hold themselves back. Chu Fengmian kept calling them ants. Even if the three of them had some thoughts of retreating, it was all gone now. Martial artists would not tolerate such humiliation, let alone the three of them, who were sovereigns. Boom! Bai Wuqing and Nirvana Dragon Lord's laws of heaven and earth were displayed in an instant. The two of them combined the laws of heaven and earth, and there were a total of 190 strands of them. When they were displayed together, it was earth-shattering. In front of the laws of heaven and earth, the surrounding space was subdued. Suppress. The 190 strands of laws of heaven and earth immediately turned into a pagoda and pressed down on Chu Fengmian. This pagoda was very strict. The various forces on it were formed by the power of heaven and earth. Long and long, ancient serpents coiled around it. Dragons and serpents were closely related. In the legends of the mortal world, dragons were formed from serpents. The power of dragons and serpents fused into one and turned into a pagoda. It pressed down on Chu Fengmian's body. Bai Wuqing and Nirvana Dragon Lord had brought out all their trump cards. This pagoda hung over Chu Fengmian's head. The huge force was about to suppress Chu Fengmian's body directly. These 190 strands of laws of heaven and earth were more than Chu Fengmian's. When they shrouded him, Chu Fengmian's body trembled. It's a pity that Brother Sun's law of the heavens and earth has been taken away by this brat. Otherwise, we would definitely be able to suppress this person. Bai Wuqing sighed and said. Among the three of them, Sun Dao's laws of heaven and earth had already been taken away by Chu Fengmian when they clashed. Otherwise, the power of this pagoda would be even stronger when combined with Sun Dao's laws of heaven and earth. It doesn't matter. In any case, once I kill this kid, the laws of heaven and earth will return to me. Sun Dao looked at Chu Fengmian with murderous intent. His worldly laws had been taken away by Chu Fengmian. It was a disaster for him. Sun Dao might still be a three-tribulation true emperor, but without the worldly laws, he might not be a match for a second tribulation true emperor. Brother Bai, the dragon monarch will suppress this kid. Let me kill him. Sun Dao uttered a roar and grabbed forward, summoning a long saber in his hand. Sun Dao wielded his saber and slashed at Chu Fengmian. The sharp ray aimed straight for Chu Fengmian's chest. Not bad. You want to suppress me with just this? When Chu Fengmian saw Sun Dao rushing over, his expression didn't change at all. He only sneered. What suppression? Break for me. Boom! As he laughed coldly, a total of 181 strands of the laws of heaven and earth appeared behind Chu Fengmian. They turned into golden rays of light and shot into the air, colliding with the pagoda in midair. The massive forces collided in the sky, resulting in countless explosions. Under this golden light, the dragon snake pagoda was bombarded time and time again, and countless cracks actually appeared on it. In the next moment, it began to shatter in the sky. The combined laws of Nirvana Dragon Monarch and Bai Wuqing were indeed stronger than Chu Fengmian. However, their combined laws were far inferior to Chu Fengmian's own. With just one collision, the dragon snake pagoda was on the verge of collapse. You want to suppress me? Even the all heavens can't do it, let alone the likes of you. Soaring serpent transformation. The power of the soaring serpent in Chu Fengmian's bloodline burst out again. A steady stream of energy supported Chu Fengmian. His body turned into an enormous soaring serpent in the air and slammed into the dragon snake pagoda. Not good. Withdraw the laws of heaven and earth. Bai Wuqing and Nirvana Dragon Monarch exclaimed when they saw Chu Fengmian's actions. However, before the two of them could withdraw the laws of heaven and earth, Chu Fengmian's soaring serpent had already slammed into the pagoda. Boom! Under this collision, the dragon snake pagoda was smashed into pieces and turned into countless golden lights in the air. A total of 190 laws of heaven and earth flew out. Before Nirvana Dragon Monarch and Bai Wuqing, Chu Fengmian waved his hand and grabbed at them. 190 laws of heaven and earth fell into Chu Fengmian's hands without any suspense. When Ancient Spell Island Lord saw this, he looked at Chu Fengmian as if he was looking at a monster. 3 Tribulation True Emperors were no match for Chu Fengmian even after joining forces. They couldn't even escape unscathed from Chu Fengmian. Chu Fengmian took action and collected all the nomological laws of the sky and earth of the 3 of them. Die for me. After taking the laws of heaven and earth, Chu Fengmian's aura became even stronger. He looked at Nirvana Dragon Monarch. With a thought, the battle dragon claw was formed. With the power of his bloodline, it tore through the sky and aimed at Nirvana Dragon Monarch. Boom! Nirvana Dragon Monarch also formed a dragon claw in an instant to counter the attack. However, the dragon claw formed by Nirvana Dragon Monarch was shattered in an instant. His body was sent flying as he spat out mouthfuls of blood. Devour! Chu Fengmian had no intention of letting Nirvana Dragon Monarch go. He activated the sky-devouring secret technique again. A terrifying vortex shrouded Nirvana Dragon Monarch. No! Don't kill me! Our dragon race is very protective of our own. If you kill me, the Divine Dragon Empire will not let you off. Nirvana Dragon Monarch shouted in horror. He was called Nirvana Dragon Monarch because he had experienced countless battles of life and death. After surviving countless battles of life and death, he was known as Nirvana Rebirth. However, he felt that he was in danger of dying in front of Chu Fengmian. If the Divine Dragon Empire wants revenge, then come. I will kill every one of you who comes. Chapter 1233. Under the attack of the Battle Dragon Claw, the Nirvana Dragon Lord's dragon body was destroyed mercilessly. Everyone, please search Nirvana Dragon Monarch to see the complete picture. Nirvana Dragon Monarch. Nirvana Dragon Monarch was smashed into pieces in the air. His blood essence was mercilessly devoured by the heaven-devouring secret technique. A 3 Tribulation True Emperor, a dragon monarch of the Divine Dragon Empire, was smashed into pieces by Chu Fengmian's claw. When Island Master Ancient Spell saw this scene, he nearly bit off his tongue. He was also a 3 Tribulation True Emperor. Though he was stronger than Nirvana Dragon Lord, it wasn't difficult for him to defeat him. It was not easy for an Emperor Realm Venerable to defeat someone in the same realm, let alone kill them. Furthermore, Chu Fengmian was only in the Immortal Realm. He crossed 4 realms to kill Nirvana Dragon Monarch. Since ancient times, no one had accomplished this legendary feat. Now, Chu Fengmian did it. What kind of power is this? Who are you? He has not received the inheritance of the Holy Dragon Secret Realm. Only those inhuman monsters in the Holy Dragon Mystery Ground could achieve such a feat. How is it possible for him to do all this by himself? On the other side, the 3 Holy Dragon Secret Realm disciples, who were suppressed by Chu Fengmian, stared at Chu Fengmian crazily. They came from the Holy Dragon Secret Realm and were very knowledgeable. However, Chu Fengmian's existence still exceeded their knowledge. There were indeed geniuses in the Holy Dragon Secret Realm who could reach Chu Fengmian's level. However, they were geniuses groomed by the Holy Dragon Secret Realm. Geniuses groomed by a holy land could casually consume holy pills to reach this level. However, Chu Fengmian, who came from the ancient monster continent, did all this without any background. How could they believe that such a person would have a terrifying future if he obtained more resources? It was not just the 3 from the Holy Dragon Secret Realm. Bai Wuqing also went crazy when he saw Nirvana Dragon Monarch die. Even at death, he could not believe that he would die at the hands of an Immortal Realm brat. When he first heard Chu Fengmian's name, he treated Chu Fengmian as an ant and did not take it to heart. But today, he had become an ant before Chu Fengmian. I only regret that I did not kill you back then. Bai Wuqing looked at Chu Fengmian and said without regret. Back in the ancient Serpent Empire, he had almost made a move against Chu Fengmian. However, at that time, he had thought that Chu Fengmian was just an ant that wasn't worth his time. Really? Even if you had attacked me back then, you wouldn't have been able to kill me. You could only force me to retreat. Chu Fengmian smiled casually. Nirvana Dragon Lord must be too bored to travel alone. The two of you, go accompany him. Boom! The sky-ripping claw appeared once again. This time, its target was Bai Wuqing. Let's fight. Bai Wuqing and Sun Dao joined forces, gathering their strength to resist. However, the combined power of the two of them was still unable to withstand a single blow from the sky-tearing claw. Crack! Bai Wuqing and Sun Dao's figures were torn apart in midair, turning into a bloody mist as the heaven-devouring secret technique devoured their blood. 3 Tribulation True Emperors have died to Chu Fengmian. Their blood essence had been mercilessly devoured, and there was no longer any possibility of resurrection. A total of 300 strands of worldly laws. A thick strand of worldly laws flew out in front of Chu Fengmian. This was the combination of the worldly laws of the sovereigns that Chu Fengmian had killed. A total of 300 strands of worldly laws were gathered together and placed in front of Chu Fengmian. Devour. The heaven-devouring secret technique suddenly activated and devoured all 300 strands of worldly laws, fusing them into Chu Fengmian's body. The 300 strands of worldly laws had lost their master and were almost powerless to resist, fusing into Chu Fengmian's body. Chu Fengmian's divine vein absorbed all 300 strands of worldly laws. As the divine vein devoured them, Chu Fengmian's aura continued to rise. How terrifying! This person has swallowed so many world principles. If it were any other genius, they would have already ascended to the Emperor realm, but this person's realm hasn't changed at all. Ancient Spell Island Lord looked at Chu Fengmian in horror. 300 strands of worldly laws was comparable to many 4 Tribulation True Emperors. If Ancient Spell Island Lord were to refine them, he would probably become a 4 Tribulation True Emperor in one leap. But now, after refining all 300 strands of worldly laws, Chu Fengmian's cultivation didn't change at all. This meant that Chu Fengmian's current cultivation hadn't reached its limit. Although he was in the immoral realm, he could contain more power than many sovereigns. The 300 strands of worldly laws have been completely refined. Refining worldly laws took only a moment. After refining them, Chu Fengmian activated his power. However, his gaze suddenly turned gloomy. The power wasn't right. Chu Fengmian carefully observed and found that all 300 strands of worldly laws had been refined by him. But there were only 300 strands of worldly laws in his body. Chu Fengmian originally had 181 strands of worldly laws. With the addition of these 300 strands, he should have nearly 500 strands of worldly laws. But after refining all 300 strands of worldly laws, he only had 300 strands of worldly laws in his body. Some of the worldly laws have no effect after being devoured. Chu Fengmian frowned. He felt that most of the worldly laws in Nirvana Dragon Monarch's body had been devoured by Chu Fengmian. But Chu Fengmian hadn't devoured more than a third of the worldly laws in other bodies. Some of the worldly laws had been refined by Chu Fengmian and were useless, dissipating directly. Could it be that the worldly laws can't be devoured endlessly? Chu Fengmian was puzzled for a moment, but suddenly understood. The worldly laws had to be refined by oneself. Devouring the worldly laws of others was a shortcut. But the most powerful part of Chu Fengmian's body was the worldly law that he had refined himself. As for the remaining 200 strands of worldly laws, they might not even be comparable to that one strand. Chu Fengmian had devoured too many worldly laws. If he wanted to refine them, he would have to do it himself. Chapter 1234. After dealing with all of this, it's time to go to the Sacred Dragon's secret realm. Chu Fengmian's eyes flashed. Dia's primary goal in coming to the Myriad Dragon City was to go to the Sacred Dragon's secret realm. As for this scheme, it was something Chu Fengmian came up with on the spur of the moment. Since he was going to leave, he had to make Chu Fengmian's enemies pay the price. However, the price was too heavy. 100 quasi-emperors, a dozen true emperors, and 3/3 tribulation true emperors were all dead. Their essence blood and all of their fortuitous encounters had fallen into Chu Fengmian's hands. Of course, this was not what Chu Fengmian cared about the most. What he cared about was the sacred dragon's secret realm. The three of you, come out. Chu Fengmian waved his hand and the 3 disciples of the sacred dragon's secret realm landed in front of him. Their spiritual energy was still suppressed by Chu Fengmian. The moment they appeared, they knelt in front of Chu Fengmian. The 3 of you wanted to deal with me. Unfortunately, things didn't go as you planned. Chu Fengmian looked at the 3 disciples and said with a faint smile. If it wasn't for the 3 of them, Chu Fengmian wouldn't have been able to catch so many big fish. It seemed that Chu Fengmian had to thank them today. However, Chu Fengmian not killing them was the best way to show his gratitude. Sparing their lives was much more useful than killing them. Brat, we admit defeat this time. However, you brought about your own destruction today. Our sacred dragon's secret realm has many experts, including 9 tribulation true emperors. You're not far from death after provoking the sacred dragon's secret realm. A disciple of the sacred dragon's secret realm knelt on the ground and said furiously. Even if you kill us, you'll join us in a few days. Kill? I still want you to work for me. How can I kill you? Chu Fengmian's lips curled into a cold smile. Although these disciples of the sacred dragon's secret realm had met with some misfortune, it was nothing to Chu Fengmian. Even a 9 tribulation true emperor would be envious of Chu Fengmian's fortuitous encounters. His goal was the sacred dragon's secret realm, not these insignificant disciples. Bah! We'd rather die than work for you. Hearing Chu Fengmian's words, another sacred dragon's secret realm disciple spoke with disdain. Really? Chu Fengmian wasn't angry. He just slowly raised his hand. A ball of black spiritual power condensed on Chu Fengmian's fingertip. At the instant they saw the black spiritual energy, the expressions of the 3 holy dragon mystic realm disciples changed. Even the ancient Spell Island master and Luya's expressions turned somewhat ugly when they saw this scene. They had all seen with their own eyes how Chu Fengmian had crushed Jianwang and Qingsong to death. Although Chu Fengmian could crush the 2 of them to death as easily as crushing ants, Chu Fengmian had only used the power of the restriction to kill the 2 quasi-emperors. Once controlled by the All-Heaven Death Seal, even a venerable sovereign would be killed by Chu Fengmian with a single thought. No! I don't want that. A sacred dragon's secret realm disciple looked at Chu Fengmian and spoke in a panic. I am a martial artist from the Hailstone Continent, and my ancestor is the Frozen Heaven ancestor. As long as you let me go, I am willing to give you countless benefits. A martial artist from the Hailstone Continent. Chu Fengmian had also learned about the situation of the continents around the ancient monster continent from the bloody blood demon Honorable. The Hailstone Continent was one of them. Although it was not comparable to the 5 Elements continent, it was still 1 level higher than the ancient monster continent. It was a level 6 continent. The Frozen Heaven ancestor was also a famous character, an 8 tribulation true emperor. The sacred dragon secret realm disciple mentioned the Frozen Heaven ancestor in order to make Chu Fengmian hesitate. However, Chu Fengmian had never been so apprehensive. It's not up to you. Chu Fengmian sneered. With the point of his palm, the ball of black spiritual power split into 3 and turned into 3 all-heaven death seals, which were engraved on the bodies of the 3 holy dragon secret realm disciples. Once the seals entered their spirit veins, no matter how hard they tried to resist, it was useless. After doing all this, Chu Fengmian slowly withdrew his spiritual power. The 3 holy dragon secret realm disciples no longer looked at Chu Fengmian with hatred. Instead, their eyes were filled with respect. Let's go. We have something to do first. Chu Fengmian was not in a hurry to inquire about the situation in the Holy Dragon secret realm. Instead, his figure moved and disappeared in the air. Outside the Thousand Dragon City, a blood-red escape light was escaping at high speed. Behind this blood-red escape light, several escape lights were chasing after it. This blood-red escape light was the blood demon supremacy. When Chu Fengmian was surrounded, he was also being chased. Although most of the quasi-emperors were chasing after Chu Fengmian, there were also a few Five Mountain Sword sect disciples chasing after the blood demon supremacy. Blood demon supremacy, you don't have to run anymore. It's meaningless for you to continue running. Even your master's horse would die, let alone you. A Five Mountain Sword sect disciple stared at Chu Fengmian and sneered. It's a waste of energy to run. That's right, blood demon supremacy. Just now, the lords had already given you a chance. It's a pity that you were so stubborn. Now that you're dead, you only have yourself to blame. Another Five Mountain Sword sect disciple sneered. Hand over your life. As he spoke, sword lights that filled the sky slashed toward him again. Such a scene had happened countless times. However, the blood demon supremacy did not have much spiritual power left after escaping again and again. This time, he raised his head. The moment he looked at the sword lights in the sky, his face was already pale and his heart was cold. He could not help but close his eyes. However, the sword lights that filled the sky did not descend. When the blood demon supremacy opened his eyes, he saw Chu Fengmian's figure suddenly appear. He pointed his finger in the air and the sword lights in the sky were shattered. Let's see who dares to touch my people. Chu Fengmian looked at the blood demon supremacy and said with a smile. Not bad. I didn't expect it to be you who chose to follow me in the end. It's my honor to follow you, Lord. The blood demon supremacy looked at Chu Fengmian and said respectfully. Although he was also subdued by Chu Fengmian, he had followed Chu Fengmian for so long. In particular, Chu Fengmian had clashed with the Five Mountain Sword sect in order to save him. All this had made him truly submit to Chu Fengmian. Even without the All-Heaven Death Seal, he would not choose to betray Chu Fengmian. Chu Fengmian? You, how is it possible? Why are you here? On the other side, the Five Mountain Sword sect disciples could not help but narrow their eyes when they saw Chu Fengmian appear. They shouted in disbelief. Chapter 1235. 100 Quasi-Emperors, more than a dozen true emperors, and a three-tribulation true emperor. In the eyes of these Five Mountain Sword sect disciples, Chu Fengmian was dead for sure. There was no suspense. But now, Chu Fengmian was alive and standing in front of them. How can I be here? Those ants want to kill me? Chu Fengmian calmly asked after hearing the bewilderment of the disciples. The word ants shocked the disciples of the Five Mountain Sword sect. 100 quasi-emperors, more than a dozen true emperors, and a three-tribulation true emperor. They were mere ants in Chu Fengmian's eyes. You! Don't be so arrogant. Who knows if you're telling the truth? Maybe you're just fooling the experts. A Five Mountain Sword sect disciple pointed at Chu Fengmian and suddenly shouted. Set up the formation and kill him, that'll be a great contribution. Rumble. The remaining disciples of the Five Mountain Sword sect attacked almost at the same time. Countless spiritual swords combined in the air and turned into a sword formation, slashing directly at Chu Fengmian. You overestimate yourselves. Chu Fengmian didn't even bother to look at them. He gathered his dragon aura and slammed it down. In front of the dragon's might, the sword formation was easily shattered. The bodies of the Five Mountain Sword sect disciples exploded in the air. The blood demon supremacy was stunned when he saw the disciples of the Five Mountain Sword sect being killed by Chu Fengmian's dragon might. He was so scared that his whole body was trembling. Even though these disciples were at the bottom of the quasi-emperor level, they were still enough to push him into a corner. The blood demon supremacy had suffered a lot from the sword formation, but now, he was killed by Chu Fengmian. Chu Fengmian didn't even need to make a move personally. Quasi-emperors weren't even qualified for Chu Fengmian to take action. Right now, Chu Fengmian was strong enough to fight against a four-tribulation true emperor. Greetings, Master. Victory is upon us. The blood demon supremacy looked at Chu Fengmian and hurriedly knelt on the ground as he spoke respectfully. Chu Fengmian took young noble Jin Ju and forcefully left. Countless experts surrounded Chu Fengmian. Now that Chu Fengmian had appeared here, it meant that the experts who had besieged Chu Fengmian had most likely died in his hands. Chu Fengmian had always been decisive when doing things. He would never be sloppy. I'm almost done with the ancient monster continent. Next, I'll go to the sacred dragon secret realm. Follow me loyally and I'll give you plenty of benefits. Chu Fengmian looked at Blood Devil Sovereign. Suddenly, his finger moved slightly and a blood pill flew out and landed in front of Blood Devil Sovereign. This blood pellet was formed from the blood essence of about 10 quasi-emperors. Not only did it contain the blood essence of these quasi-emperors, but it also contained everything they had encountered. Such a blood pill was a priceless treasure to any quasi-emperor. The moment Blood Devil Sovereign saw this blood pill, his pupils shrank. His hand that was ready to receive it trembled. If he swallowed and refined this blood pill, it would be almost certain that he would reach the Emperor realm in the future. Even if he couldn't break through to the Emperor realm, he would be almost invincible as a quasi-emperor. Many thanks, Master. Blood Devil Sovereign knelt on the ground and respectfully accepted the blood pill. He thanked Chu Fengmian gratefully. This blood pill was more important than his thousands of years of cultivation. It was a great help to him. His chances of breaking through to the Emperor realm in the future would be much greater. You deserve it. Chu Fengmian said calmly. Chu Fengmian was clear about gratitude and grudges. He wouldn't be stingy to those who followed him and were loyal to him. Of course, if people like Qing Song, Jin Yuan, and the others wanted to betray Chu Fengmian wouldn't let them go. Following behind Chu Fengmian, the 3 sacred dragon mystic realms disciples also slowly appeared and followed Chu Fengmian. When they saw the blood pill Chu Fengmian gave them, a strange look appeared in their eyes. Although such a blood pill was nothing in their eyes, it was only because they had obtained a large amount of resources after joining the sacred dragon secret realm that they didn't care about this blood pill. If it was before joining the sacred dragon secret realm, such a blood pill would be enough to make them fight over it. And now, Chu Fengmian gave it to Blood Devil Sovereign without the slightest hesitation. With such generosity, it was no wonder that Blood Devil Sovereign was willing to risk his life for Chu Fengmian. This is disciples of the sacred dragon secret realm? Blood Devil Sovereign had just received the blood pill when he looked at Chu Fengmian. When he saw the 3 disciples behind Chu Fengmian, his face couldn't help but tense up. Master, be careful. Don't worry, the 3 of them have already been subdued by me. Chu Fengmian said with a smile when he heard Blood Devil Sovereign's words. He swept his gaze over. The 3 disciples of the sacred dragon secret realm were now kneeling respectfully before Chu Fengmian. Blood Devil Sovereign's mouth was agape when he saw this scene. He didn't make a sound for a long time. These were the disciples of the sacred dragon secret realm. The sacred dragon secret realm was a martial holy land. Any disciple of the sacred dragon secret realm who came to the ancient monster continent would be regarded as a peerless genius and be highly respected. It wasn't only because of their talent, but also because each of them had a shocking background. For example, true Emperor Jin Ju was behind young Master Jin Ju. Most of the disciples who could join the sacred dragon secret realm were either rich or respectable people with prominent backgrounds. Although Blood Devil Sovereign was also a quasi-emperor, he could only look up to the disciples of the sacred dragon secret realm. But now, these disciples of the sacred dragon secret realm were all kneeling before Chu Fengmian and submitting to him. Even many big shots would go crazy when they saw this scene. I'm about to set off for the sacred dragon secret realm. You can stay in the ancient monster continent and cultivate. Oh right, I have a sect in the ancient monster continent called the Brilliant Sky Sect. You can go there and help me if you encounter any trouble. Chu Fengmian slowly opened his mouth. The Brilliant Sky Sect was only a corner of Chu Fengmian's arrival in the ancient monster continent. However, it was still considered Chu Fengmian's force. Now that Chu Fengmian was about to leave, there was no harm in letting Blood Devil Sovereign take care of it. Yes. The Blood Demon Lord replied respectfully. Taking care of a small sect was not a troublesome matter for him. Let's go. After instructing Blood Devil Sovereign, Chu Fengmian didn't have any reluctance to leave the ancient monster continent. His body stepped into the void in an instant. Chapter 1236. This old man and young woman were none other than Luya and Island Master Gufa. Now, Ancient Spell Island Lord no longer looked at Chu Fengmian as if he was looking at a junior. Instead, he was full of respect. Although Ancient Spell Island Lord was much older than Chu Fengmian, strength was respected in both the 9 domains and the ancient monster continent. Chu Fengmian was able to defeat 100 quasi-emperors, a dozen true emperors, and three tribulation true emperors all by himself. This kind of strength far surpassed Ancient Spell Island Lord. It was normal for him to respect Chu Fengmian. May I know young master's true name? Ancient Spell Island Lord looked at Chu Fengmian and hesitated for a moment before suddenly asking. He knew the name Chu Fengmian, but no matter how hard he tried to recall or even think about the geniuses of other continents, he had never heard of such a name. Given Chu Fengmian's strength, it was impossible for him to be a nobody. True name? My name is Chu Fengmian. I will never change my name. Chu Fengmian couldn't help but chuckle when he heard Ancient Spell Island Lord's words. You two didn't come here to ask this, right? Luya was stunned at first, then her face turned red. She didn't know what to say. You want to go to the Sacred Dragon's secret realm? Chu Fengmian smiled faintly when he saw Luya's reaction. If that's the case, let's go together. Chu Fengmian didn't need to think to know why Luya came to the Myriad Dragon City banquet. Who would come to the banquet if not for the Sacred Dragon's secret realm? But I'll have to trouble young master again. Luya's face turned even redder when Chu Fengmian exposed her thoughts. She was not a shy person, but Chu Fengmian had just saved her life. Luya owed Chu Fengmian a favor. It was indeed strange that she needed Chu Fengmian's help now. It's fine. It's just a small matter. If you don't come with me this time, I'm afraid you'll have to wait for a few decades. Chu Fengmian said casually. Wait for a few decades? This wasn't too long. There were records that the last time a disciple of the Sacred Dragon's secret realm came was 100 years ago. Luya no longer hesitated and said to Chu Fengmian. Thank you, young master. With your aptitude, it's more than enough for you to enter the Holy Dragon Mystic Realm. Chu Fengmian looked at Luya and said. Luya's talent was much higher than the countless geniuses Chu Fengmian had seen. Although she was on par with Sang Rong in the arena, Sang Rong was, after all, a disciple of the Holy Dragon Mystery Ground, and had been nurtured by the Holy Dragon Mystery Ground. As for Luya, she was able to defeat Sang Rong without entering the Holy Dragon's secret ground. Once she entered the Holy Dragon's secret ground, Luya's strength would easily surpass young Master Jin Ju and the others. In addition, Chu Fengmian was traveling alone and was indeed bored. It wouldn't be a problem to bring another person along. Luya's expression was still a little dull after hearing Chu Fengmian's agreement. She turned her head and looked at Ancient Spell Island Master before speaking. Uncle Gu, you can go back. Miss ya, take care. After Ancient Spell Island Master finished speaking, his body moved and disappeared. She didn't need him to travel with Chu Fengmian. Let's go. Chu Fengmian waved his hand, shattering the void and creating a tunnel. This tunnel was condensed in the void, but it wasn't solid. No matter how the spatial storms bombarded the tunnel, they were unable to reach it. Even a 3 or 4 tribulation true emperor wouldn't be able to do such a thing. Luya and the 3 disciples of the Holy Dragon's secret ground couldn't help but exclaim in admiration. Exactly what kind of monster was Chu Fengmian before them? This kind of strength had simply surpassed the scope of common sense. There was no common sense that could be applied to Chu Fengmian. 5 figures were traveling through the void. Traveling through the void turbulence was originally a matter without any danger. However, Chu Fengmian's group wasn't at ease at the moment. Chu Fengmian took out the war dragon carriage and sat down with Luya. The remaining 3 disciples of the Holy Dragon's secret ground sat below the throne and respectfully listened to Chu Fengmian's words. They would answer him from time to time. In the eyes of outsiders, the Holy Dragon's secret ground wasn't mysterious at all. However, there were currently 3 disciples of the Holy Dragon's secret ground. Along the way, Chu Fengmian had asked some questions regarding the Holy Dragon's secret ground. The Holy Dragon's secret ground didn't belong to a continent. Instead, it was a force that existed outside of countless continents. The headquarters of the Holy Dragon's secret ground was located in an extraterritorial region. An extraterritorial region was a name given to a few worlds floating in the void. These extraterritorial regions were similar to continents and weren't stable. Many extraterritorial regions were filled with poisonous gas and violent spiritual energy. Ordinary cultivators would be in great danger if they entered these extraterritorial regions. There were even some vicious extraterritorial regions. Even sovereigns would die if they entered these extraterritorial regions. Of course, there were some extraterritorial regions that were exceptions. Not only were these extraterritorial regions not dangerous, but their spiritual energy was dense enough to be comparable to the cultivation's sacred grounds of many continents. The Holy Dragon's secret ground was located in such an extraterritorial region. All the disciples of the Holy Dragon's secret ground came from different continents. These continents were actually under the control of the Holy Dragon's secret ground. For example, the ancient Fey continent was one of these continents. Moreover, it was only considered to be in the lower tier among the continents under the control of the Holy Dragon's secret ground. The 5 Elements continent and the Hailstone continent were actually under the control of the Holy Dragon's secret ground. There were hundreds of continents under the Holy Dragon's secret ground. Chu Fengmian was shocked to hear that a single force controlled hundreds of continents. At the same time, he also understood the power of the Holy Dragon's secret ground. The fact that the Holy Dragon's secret ground could control hundreds of continents also meant that its power was enough to do all of this. Otherwise, it would have been overthrown long ago. As for how many experts there were in the Holy Dragon's secret ground, these 3 disciples didn't know. They were only ordinary members of the Holy Dragon's secret ground and didn't enter the inner sect. Thus, they knew very little about it. Of course, even if they were ordinary disciples, they would still be first-rate geniuses in the lower continents with unparalleled status. These 3 disciples of the Holy Dragon's secret ground were called Beijing, Hua, and Chang Kong. The 3 of them had some background. Although they weren't as powerful as young noble Jin Ju, the ancestors behind their clans were around the level of 5 tribulation true emperors. This status was even more honorable than the princes of the 3 great empires of the ancient Fey continent. Hua, have you heard of the 9 domains? Chu Fengmian suddenly asked. Chapter 1237. Chu Fengmian came from the 9 territories, and he would have to go back in the future. On the phone, but there were countless continents in the starry sky. If Chu Fengmian didn't know their exact location, he wouldn't be able to find them one by one even if he reached the 7th layer Emperor realm. The starry sky was vast. If Chu Fengmian searched one by one, he might not be able to find them even after hundreds or thousands of years. The 9 territories? Beijing, Hua, and Chang Kong were stunned at first, and their eyes were filled with confusion. After a while, Chang Kong's eyes suddenly flashed with a glimmer of light. Master, are you talking about the 9 territories of the 4 sacred territories? 4 sacred territories? Hearing this, Luya, who was sitting next to Chu Fengmian, couldn't help but ask in confusion. Aren't there only 3 sacred territories in this world? The Pantheon continent, the Myriad Realm continent, and the Central continent, these 3 first-class continents are known as the 3 sacred territories. Is there a 4th sacred territory in this world? 3 sacred territories? First-class continents? Chu Fengmian was secretly surprised when he heard this. This was the first time he had heard of such a title. especially since there were only 3 first-class continents. However, the ancient monster continent was only a 7th-class continent. The 5 elements continent, which was said to be able to easily sweep across the ancient monster continent, was only a 5th-class continent. The power of a first-class continent was probably beyond Chu Fengmian's imagination. It is true that there are only 3 great sacred domains in the current all heavens. However, it is said that millions of years ago, there was a sacred domain called the 9 domains. At that time, the 9 domains suppressed the other 3 sacred domains, and became the overlord of the all heavens. Chang Kong thought for a while and then said. But later, it was said that the 9 territories declined and disappeared. But now, there are still many masters looking for the 9 territories, but they haven't found anything. I only heard about this from ancient books. Master, are you also planning to look for the 9 territories? Yes. Although Chu Fengmian was surprised, his expression was not normal. No wonder Xing Xian once said that the origin of the 9 territories was extremely shocking. He didn't expect the 9 territories to be a first-class continent and a sacred territory that was even called the Lord of the Heavens. It seemed that the 9 regions were indeed hidden in a place that was extremely difficult to discover, so much so that no one had discovered them for thousands of years. It was also an accident that Chu Fengmian was able to come outside of the 9 regions. If this news were to spread, countless experts would come to deal with Chu Fengmian. It is said that the 9 regions contain the legacies of countless ancient sections. Treasures are everywhere. I want to find the 9 regions. Chu Fengmian replied without batting an eyelid. His answer was no different from the other martialists searching for the 9 domains. After all, most cultivators came to the 9 domains to find the ancient sect legacies of the 9 domains. For example, the Supreme Sword Qi was a sword Dao treasure that originated from the 9 realms. At the very least, Chu Fengmian knew that most of the sects in the Sinkhole Sky realm had been famous since ancient times. Many of these sects had left behind precious treasures that were even coveted by some Emperor realm masters. Finding the existence of the 9 zones was a great opportunity for any powerhouse. The ancient legacies of the 9 regions are indeed extremely terrifying. The sect legacies of the former lords of all heavens are probably unfathomable. It is said that all the sword Dao sects in the world are related to the sword sects of the 9 regions. Chang Kong nodded when he heard Chu Fengmian's words. The treasures of the 9 regions were extremely attractive to any Emperor realm master. It was not surprising that Chu Fengmian wanted to go to the 9 regions. It is a pity that the space where the 9 regions are is said to have been hidden by some supreme experts. It is impossible to find it. Chang Kong sighed. As long as he could obtain any of the legacies of the ancient sects of the 9 regions, he would be able to soar to the sky. However, even if there was such an opportunity, it was not something he could obtain. There were many people in all heavens who wanted to obtain the treasures of the 9 regions. Even the remaining 3 sacred regions were unwilling to give up on the 9 regions and planned to seize the treasures of the 9 regions. What great continent is the sacred dragon secret realm? After learning about the 9 regions, Chu Fengmian did not intend to bring up this topic. Instead, he changed the topic. The sacred dragon secret realm was enough to make all the grade 5 continents submit to it. It was probably a powerful force in all heavens. Although our sacred dragon secret realm is not a continent, it is generally classified as a grade 3 continent. Hearing Chu Fengmian's question, the painting could not help but show some pride. They were all disciples of the sacred dragon secret realm. When they mentioned this, they could not help but feel proud. The sacred dragon secret realm is only a grade 3 continent. It is enough to rule over hundreds of continents. How strong are the grade 2 and grade 1 continents? Chu Fengmian was stunned when he heard this, but he soon understood. The extraterritorial starry sky was far from what the 9 regions could compare to. The extraterritorial starry sky was so vast that there were tens of thousands of continents. Although the sacred dragon secret realm ruled over hundreds of continents, it was still incomparable to the true giants. Of course, in the extraterritorial starry sky, the sacred dragon secret realm was still considered a giant. Boom! At this moment, a huge turbulence suddenly swept across the void. The turbulence in the void was many times stronger than the one in the ancient monster continent. If the spatial turbulence in the ancient Fey continent was like a small stream, then the spatial turbulence here was like a vast ocean that was crashing down like waves. Is this the turbulence in the ancient monster continent? We have already left the ancient monster continent? Chu Fengmian exclaimed. This was the first time he had left the continent by himself. Chu Fengmian saw a jade talisman floating in front of Beijing, painting and Chang Kong. It was the power of the jade talisman that protected the battle dragon treasure chariot from the turbulence in the void. Without these jade talismans, even with Chu Fengmian's current strength, he would have been swept away by the turbulence in the void. If he was lucky, he would end up in another continent and be severely injured. If it was serious, he would be directly crushed by the turbulence in the void. Unless one was a 7 tribulation true emperor, there was no way to resist the power of the turbulence in the void. When the disciples of the sacred dragon's secret realm went to other continents, they were given jade talismans by the elders. These jade talismans were refined by the elders of the 7 tribulation true emperor lands. They are enough to resist the turbulence in the void. Chang Kong explained from the side. Chapter 1238. The sacred dragon's secret realm does have some tricks up its sleeve. Chu Fengmian exclaimed. Even a 6 tribulation true emperor would be torn apart if he tried to resist the power of this chaotic space. But now, this talisman was enough to allow a quasi-emperor to travel through space. This talisman, Chu Fengmian suddenly looked over and carefully sensed the power of the jade talisman. The power of the jade talisman wasn't very strong. Even with Chu Fengmian's current strength, it was likely that he would be able to break it. However, this talisman was able to separate the spatial storms. There was a type of spatial power on the surface. It was this kind of spatial power that separated the surrounding spatial storm. It did not rely on the power of the surface to forcefully resist the power of the spatial storm. Such a mysterious spatial power. Looks like the creator of this talisman has reached the apex of mastery in the law of space. Chu Fengmian mumbled to himself. Quietly, he also activated the power of the heavenly dragon transformation. Chu Fengmian's mastery of the law of space wasn't low either. Progenitor Jianwang was a connate divine beast that could control space. After obtaining Tianlong's essence blood, Chu Fengmian's understanding of the law of space far surpassed demon gods at the same level. Although he wasn't at the same level as the elder who made the talisman, he wasn't bad either. I'll go back. Chu Fengmian suddenly said calmly. His body left the carriage and flew away in a flash. Alone, Chu Fengmian came to the center of the spatial turbulence. Suddenly, countless spatial turbulence whizzed toward him. Master. Young noble? Nahua's group and Luyu were shocked to see Chu Fengmian's action. They had heard of the power of the turbulence. Even a 6 tribulation true emperor would be torn apart if they tried to resist it, let alone Chu Fengmian. Don't worry. Chu Fengmian casually said. He quietly gathered the power of Tianwang transformation. The law of space immediately revolved around Chu Fengmian. The spatial storms that were attacking Chu Fengmian were quietly neutralized. This scene almost scared the hell out of everyone. Only 7 tribulation true emperors and above could cross the stars with their physical bodies. However, Chu Fengmian had not even advanced to quasi-emperor. He was merely an immortal. Yet, he managed to cross the starry heavens. This could no longer be described as demonic geniuses. This was even more astonishing than when Chu Fengmian defeated all his enemies. Who? After resisting for about 10 breaths of time, Chu Fengmian's figure moved and returned to the war dragon carriage. He looked a little tired. The amount of energy required to resist the spatial turbulence was much more than Chu Fengmian had imagined. With his full strength, he could at most maintain it for a dozen breaths of time. If he maintained it for a little longer, Chu Fengmian's life would be in danger. However, it only lasted for a dozen breaths of time, which was already extremely shocking. Master, you, the three of them looked at Chu Fengmian, speechless. Luya looked at Chu Fengmian. She was scared out of her wits. Chu Fengmian had withstood the spatial storm with his strength of the immortal realm. Who would believe him if he told others about it? This kind of thing that defied common sense seemed to be happening more and more with Chu Fengmian. It was as if Chu Fengmian was an existence that defied common sense. Let's try it out. My control of the spatial law has improved. Chu Fengmian muttered to himself. After all, the power of progenitor Jianwang was an external force. It did not belong to Chu Fengmian, even though it had been integrated into his bloodline. However, he still needed to practice again and again to become more familiar with it. After a minute, Chu Fengmian's spiritual energy was restored again. For venerable sovereigns, it would take a few days, or even a few months, to fully recover their lost spiritual power. However, Chu Fengmian had the divine pulse. Although his divine pulse could no longer restore his spiritual energy in an instant like before, it was still 1 minute. However, in 1 minute, he would surpass other venerable sovereigns by thousands of times. After the recovery, Chu Fengmian's figure moved and once again left the war dragon carriage. He urged the power of Jianwang to resist the spatial storm. This action lasted for half an hour. The moment the spatial storm completely disappeared, Chu Fengmian reluctantly came back to his senses. In this half an hour, Chu Fengmian had practiced at least 20 times. His control of Tianlong's bloodline was becoming more and more familiar with each use. From the first 10 breaths to the last, Chu Fengmian lasted for 20 breaths. The power of the spatial storm did not change at all. It was just that Chu Fengmian's control of the spatial law had become more and more proficient. If this is the case, maybe I don't need a 7 tribulation true emperor to cross the starry sky. But it's still far from enough. Chu Fengmian muttered to himself. With Tianlong's bloodline, Chu Fengmian's control of the spatial law was far superior to demon gods of the same level. He didn't need to become a 7 tribulation true emperor to cross the starry sky. Of course, Chu Fengmian could only resist the spatial storm for 20 breaths. It would take at least a few days to cross the starry sky. If he were to go to a distant continent, it would take dozens of days. Chu Fengmian was still far from enough. Nevertheless, he still understood a few tricks to cross the starry sky. Chu Fengmian returned to the carriage and sat down with his eyes closed. He slowly digested his understanding of the spatial law. The starry sky was the best place to comprehend the spatial law. It wasn't easy to find this opportunity, so Chu Fengmian quickened his pace. After 3 days and 3 nights, Chu Fengmian slowly opened his eyes. His power and aura didn't change at all. However, his understanding of the spatial law had far surpassed his previous level. With Tianlong's power, even a 4 or 5 tribulation true emperor wouldn't be able to stop Chu Fengmian. This gave Chu Fengmian an extra life-saving card. Master, we're about to reach the Sacred Dragon Secret Realm's extraterritorial zone. Not long after, Hua told Chu Fengmian. There was still an endless expanse of space ahead. However, Chu Fengmian felt that there was something hidden in this place. Chu Fengmian slowly put away the carriage. He didn't want to be too ostentatious and continued forward. Chapter 1239. The river was so vast that one couldn't see the end of it. It appeared out of nowhere in the starry sky. What made Chu Fengmian fearless was the fact that the power contained within this long river was simply endless. This was the first time Chu Fengmian had such a feeling. It was when he saw the divine tree. This river was definitely a supreme treasure, one that was not inferior to the world of fresh blood. Once someone obtained this river, they could channel their spirit energy and mercilessly crush any 7 tribulation or 8 tribulation true emperor. Even if they had a myriad of methods, they wouldn't be able to do anything. In the face of absolute power, all methods were meaningless. However, Chu Fengmian knew that this river wasn't something he could obtain right now. Moreover, this river was clearly a supreme treasure of the Sacred Dragon Secret Realm. Once he tried to take it, he would be mercilessly attacked by the Secret Realm. Only after he became a 9 tribulation true emperor would he have a chance to do so. Master, please wait a moment. Hua and the others hurriedly stopped Chu Fengmian and slowly took out a jade talisman. Once the talisman was taken out, the violent spirit energy in the river slowly calmed down. Then, a path was opened for Hua and the others to enter. After entering the river, Chu Fengmian could see that there was another universe within. In the middle of the river, continents appeared one after another. Many of these continents were incomplete. Rather than calling them continents, it would be better to call them pieces of extraterritorial lands. As far as the eye could see, there were thousands of such extraterritorial lands of various sizes in the land of the Long River. Of course, many of them were smaller than a country in the ancient monster continent. However, they still had different environments. In fact, even one of the extraterritorial lands was an erupting volcano. What the volcano erupted wasn't ordinary fire, but heavenly fire. Heavenly fire from the 9 heavens. At the heart of this volcano was a type of colorless flame, the pure yang heavenly fire. There were many special extraterrestrial lands like this. Some were so cold that true emperors would freeze to death if they couldn't withstand the chill. There were also some extraterritorial lands that were filled with poisonous gas. Once one came into contact with the poisonous gas, one would definitely die. Of course, it wasn't just dangerous. These extraterrestrial lands also had countless opportunities. For example, the volcano-like extraterrestrial lands had countless opportunities. There were also countless spirit grasses growing in the heavenly fire. These spirit grasses weren't afraid of being burned by the heavenly fire at all. Instead, they were absorbing the heavenly fire to grow. Chu Fengmian knew that this was a kind of spiritual medicine called the flaming grass. It was an out-and-out panacea that contained the purest fire spiritual energy. For martial artists and Yao gods who cultivated in the fire attribute, it had an indescribable effect and was extremely rare. It could only grow in a hot place where it had absorbed thousands of years of fire energy. In this volcano, it was only possible to grab a handful of zest. In some other dangerous extraterritorial lands, not only were there dangers, there were also opportunities. I can't believe that these lands were forcibly brought here by an expert. Chu Fengmian sharply noticed that these extraterrestrial lands had traces of being forcibly taken away. In other words, these extraterrestrial lands didn't originate from the river. Instead, they were taken one by an almighty using some unknown method. That was why this Taoist temple was here. That's right. These extraterrestrial lands were all taken by our holy dragon secret realm's progenitor from the extraterrestrial starry sky. Hua explained after hearing Chu Fengmian's words. These extraterrestrial lands are places for the disciples of the Holy Dragon Secret Realm to train. They are often open for the disciples of the Holy Dragon Secret Realm to train. Of course, many of these extraterrestrial lands are extremely dangerous. Even elders might die if they enter them. Only the core disciples of the Holy Dragon Secret Realm are qualified to enter those places. Ordinary disciples like us can only go to the less dangerous extraterrestrial lands. Of course, a large number of disciples will die every year. Chu Fengmian nodded after hearing Hua's words. The Holy Dragon Secret Realm was indeed blessed by the heavens when it came to nurturing disciples. With so many extraterrestrial lands, the disciples of the Holy Dragon Secret Realm only needed to enter them to train. In this way, the losses would be minimized. Furthermore, there were countless sacred herbs and resources growing in these extraterritorial lands for the sacred dragon mystical ground to use. The founder of the Holy Dragon Secret Realm is definitely a supreme almighty. This kind of spending is truly shocking. Taking thousands of extraterrestrial lands for the disciples of the Holy Dragon Secret Realm to train. Chu Fengmian had never heard of this kind of spending before. One had to know that only a 7 tribulation true emperor could barely cross the starry sky with his physical body. However, these extraterrestrial lands were hidden in the starry sky. Not to mention taking them away, even a 9 tribulation true emperor wouldn't be able to move them. To be able to take away extraterrestrial lands, this was definitely something that had surpassed the sovereign realm and stepped into the heavenly being realm. Only an almighty in the capital of heavenly beings could do it. By the way, have you heard of Luoshi and Hanueli? Chu Fengmian suddenly turned his head and asked. Along the way, Chu Fengmian had almost forgotten about this matter. After all, it was his first time crossing the starry sky. Chu Fengmian's attention was focused on the extraterrestrial starry sky. Luoshi and Hanueli? Master, how did you know? Hearing Chu Fengmian's question, the three were stunned for a moment before they hurriedly answered. These two are now the top geniuses in the Holy Dragon secret realm. They are the two youngest core disciples. It is said that they suddenly arrived in the Holy Dragon secret realm a few months ago. Hanueli is extremely talented and was accepted as a disciple by a Grand Elder on the spot. As for Luoshi, although her strength is ordinary, she has a strange beast following her. It is said that a Grand Elder once wanted to forcefully capture that strange beast, but was severely injured by her. Since then, Luoshi used that strange beast to join the ranks of the core disciples. No one dares to look down on her. It seems that the two of them are doing well in the Holy Dragon secret realm. Chu Fengmian smiled casually. Chu Fengmian knew that the disciples of the Holy Dragon secret realm were divided into 5 types. Ordinary disciples, inner disciples, true disciples, core disciples, and chosen disciples of the sect. The chosen disciples of the sect were the successors of countless big shots in the Holy Dragon secret realm. Core disciples were the highest-ranking disciples in the Holy Dragon secret realm. Chapter 1240. The disciples of the sacred dragon mystic domain were all geniuses born from hundreds of continents. There was no lack of monstrous geniuses among them. Some of the core disciples were not inferior to many elders in terms of strength. However, they still wanted to improve and fight for the position of chosen, which was why they did not become elders. It was unimaginable how monstrous the geniuses carefully selected from hundreds of continents were. Although Chu Fengmian had encountered countless things and had lived 2 lives, he still might not be the most monstrous genius. Master, do you know the 2 of them? Those who had drawn well asked Chu Fengmian. Hanueli and Luoshi had suddenly appeared a few months ago. Even many of the disciples of the sacred dragon mystic domain who were training outside had not heard of their names. That's right. Chu Fengmian nodded and did not explain further. Did the 2 of them encounter any trouble? Big trouble? It's nothing. However, I heard that several people in the chosen land are thinking of pursuing the 2 of them. Painting pondered for a moment and said. Hanueli has an innate godly body. Anyone who dual cultivates with her will definitely receive great benefits. They can even use some methods to directly deprive the innate godly body of its power. The strange beast in Luoshi's hand is also extremely special. It is said that many Grand Elders do not know the origin of the strange beast. They only know that its bloodline is not precious. Many chosen are also aiming for these 2 points and want to pursue them. Hearing this, killing intent immediately appeared in Chu Fengmian's eyes. Hanueli and Luoshi were both his women. Now, there were actually people who dared to spy on them with malicious intentions. No matter what chosen they are, only death awaits those who dare to provoke me. Killing intent exploded from Chu Fengmian's body. Painting, and Luoyu were all shocked. It was the first time they had seen Chu Fengmian so angry. Even when Chu Fengmian was surrounded and attacked previously, he had a calm and indifferent appearance. Now, fear appeared in their eyes under his anger. Forget it. Since we're already in the sacred dragon mystic domain, there's nothing to worry about. Chu Fengmian suppressed the killing intent in his heart and raised his head to look ahead. This long river was about to reach its end. At this moment, the figure of an old man slowly appeared. Chu Fengmian could sense a surging spirit energy from the old man. He was probably a 6 tribulation or 7 tribulation true emperor. At the very least, the current Chu Fengmian would undoubtedly die if he were to fight this old man. Behind the old man, there were two young men who followed him. From the looks of it, they should be disciples of the Holy Dragon Mystery Dimension. When this old man suddenly appeared, the three people on the painting quickly stopped and respectfully asked, "Senior brother, please accept my invitation." "So it's Elder Deku." As it spoke, the painting quietly transmitted its voice to Chu Fengmian. Elder Deku is one of the guardian elders of the Sacred Dragon Mystery Domain. Today, it is his turn to guard. In a while, he will test Master's aptitude. "Master, please do not resist." Testing aptitude? After hearing the painting's words, Chu Fengmian quietly concealed most of his encounters. There were too many encounters that Chu Fengmian couldn't afford to be discovered. Whether it was the power of creation or an extreme immortal weapon, these were things that even a 9 tribulation true emperor or a celestial being beyond the sovereign realm would want to obtain. Once it was exposed, it would most likely be seized by the experts of the Holy Dragon Mystic Ground. Chu Fengmian only revealed his battle dragon bloodline and the 5 laws of heaven and earth, pretending to be an ordinary genius. Painting, why did you go to the ancient monster continent to search for geniuses? Why did 2 people come back missing? Elder Deku asked with a frown after seeing that only 3 people were left in the paintings group. "It's like this. Elder, we set up an arena to screen out the geniuses. Those 2 died in the arena." The painting spoke truthfully. Lying was easier to expose. Moreover, there were many disciples of the Sacred Dragon's secret realm who died outside every year. Even if 2 of them died, it was nothing. Oh? He was actually beaten to death in the arena? The ones who killed the 2 of them were these 2 little fellows, right? Elder Deku wasn't angry after hearing the painting's words. Instead, he looked directly at Chu Fengmian and Luya. His gaze directly penetrated Chu Fengmian and Luya's bodies, as if he wanted to see through everything that had happened to them. 5 worldly laws? Battle dragon bloodline? These are 8 laws of heaven and earth? After taking a glance, Elder Deku's eyes revealed a trace of surprise. Then, he spoke. "That's right. They're all geniuses with extremely high aptitudes. This time, our Sacred Dragon Mystery Dimension doesn't have many geniuses with such outstanding aptitudes. It's good that those 2 pieces of trash died in the arena. They've insulted the name of our Sacred Dragon Mystery Dimension. You 2, take them away. Let's see who among the 4 sects and 8 halls wants to accept them." After Elder Deku finished speaking, the 2 young disciples behind him planned to take Chu Fengmian and Luya away. However, at this moment, a gust of wind suddenly swept over and the surrounding space was shattered. In this gust of wind, one could faintly see the appearance of a woman. Wind Empress Emperor Gu? Elder Deku was taken aback when he saw the woman clearly. Then, he hurriedly spoke. "I wonder why Supreme Elder has come. May I ask why you're here? Emperor Gu? Supreme Elder?" Chu Fengmian's gaze towards the woman changed abruptly when he heard this title. Emperor Gu wasn't a title that just anyone could call her. Most of the Emperor Realm Masters were called True Emperors. However, True Emperor was only a title for those below the 6th Tribulation Emperor Realm. Those who reached the 7th Tribulation Emperor Realm were no longer called True Emperors, but Emperor Gu. Such a person would be a great figure in the ancient era, an existence that could be called Emperor. As for true emperors below the 7th Tribulation Emperor realm, in the ancient era, they were at most a character and far from being called emperors. The woman before him was called Emperor Gu, Wind Empress. She was at least a 7th Tribulation Emperor Realm Master, someone who was on the same level as Heavenly Rock Emperor. This was the first time Chu Fengmian was so close to such a master. "This woman is fated with me. I'll take her away." The woman ignored Elder Deku's words and pointed at Luya. With a wave of her hand, she was about to take Luya away. Senior, please wait." Chapter 1241. Is there anything else? Emperor Gu looked at Luya. His eyes were much gentler and did not look as cold as before. This young master saved my life in the ancient monster continent. I would like you to arrange a good place for him. Luya looked at the Wind Empress Ancient Emperor and said slowly. Upon hearing this, the two Sacred Dragon Secret Domain disciples standing behind Elder Defan revealed envious expressions. Coming to the Holy Dragon Secret Domain was only the first step of the assessment. After that, they still had to go through the assessment to become a disciple. Moreover, the three people from the four great clans had returned to their respective halls. Chu Fengmian did not need to use them unless there was something urgent. The Holy Dragon Secret Domain disciple led Chu Fengmian through the Holy Dragon Secret Domain. The entire Holy Dragon Secret Domain was huge. It was even bigger than the ancient monster continent. It did not look like an extraterritorial land. In fact, it was no different from a real continent. On this continent, there were a total of 13 mountains. Among the 13 mountains, 12 of them were the locations of the 4 sects and 8 halls of the Holy Dragon Mystical Ground. Every disciple of the Holy Dragon Secret Domain belonged to the 4 sects and 8 halls. There were no exceptions. Most of the elders were also from the 4 sects and 8 halls, except for the hidden old antiques. The 4 sects and 8 halls each had their own specialties. For example, the Martial Tyrant Hall was the pinnacle of martial arts. One could learn martial arts from hundreds of continents. Although the Thousand Dragon Hall was called the Dragon Hall, it was actually the gathering place of the demon gods. However, dragons were revered. Most of the demon gods who entered the Holy Dragon Secret Domain were there for the Thousand Dragon Hall. Below it were the Human Hall, Divine Medicine Hall, Thousand Weapon Hall and so on. As for the 4 sects, they were beyond the 8 halls. Only the monstrous geniuses of the 8 halls were qualified to join them. Of course, there were some exceptional geniuses who joined the 4 sects the moment they entered the Holy Dragon Secret Domain. However, such geniuses were rare even in the Holy Dragon Secret Domain. The Holy Dragon sect was the leader of the 4 sects and 8 halls. For decades, no disciple had joined them, let alone a newcomer. As for the last mountain peak, it was the assessment peak of the Holy Dragon Mystery Land. There were countless palaces on the peak, and all of them were geniuses who were waiting for the assessment of the Holy Dragon Mystery Land. Chu Fengmian's target was the assessment peak. Chu Fengmian only glanced at the 13 mountains once before he stopped looking at them. His gaze was completely attracted by a huge stone statue in the distance. The stone statue was over 1,000 miles long. Chu Fengmian could see it clearly even from a great distance away. Dragon head, dragon body, and dragon tail. It was a huge stone statue of the Dragon Clan. The moment he saw the skeleton, Chu Fengmian felt a sense of familiarity in his bloodline. Thousandly Stone Dragon. When Chu Fengmian had first divined the location of Hanueli and Luoxi, he had seen this 1,000-mile stone dragon. According to Xing Xian, the statue of the stone dragon was none other than the ancestor of all dragons, the primal heavenly dragon. Chu Fengmian possessed the bloodline of the battle dragon. In his bloodline, he had awakened a part of Tianlong's bloodline. Therefore, he felt a sense of familiarity when he saw the 1,000-mile stone dragon statue. "Why aren't you moving?" While Chu Fengmian was in a daze, the Holy Dragon Mystery Land disciple turned his head and asked in confusion. He looked in the direction of Chu Fengmian's gaze and quickly came to his senses. Chapter 1242. It's enough to comprehend martial skills and secret skills from the statue? Chu Fengmian asked in astonishment after hearing the words of the Holy Dragon Mystic Realm disciple. When he was looking at the statue of primogenitor Jianwang, he only felt a sense of familiarity. As for comprehending martial skills and secret skills from the statue, Chu Fengmian was unable to sense it as it was too far away. That's right. This statue of primogenitor Tianlong is actually one of the most precious treasures of our Holy Dragon Mystic Realm. It's said that the Almighty who carved this statue also carved countless profound martial skills and secret skills into it. For example, the saints of our holy dragon mystic realm were able to soar into the sky after comprehending some martial skills from it. Saying this, the holy dragon mystic realm disciple suddenly lowered his voice and spoke to Chu Fengmian in a mysterious manner. Furthermore, according to the rumors, this statue of primogenitor Jianwang was personally carved by primogenitor Jianwang. Primogenitor Jianwang personally carved it? Hearing this, Chu Fengmian could not help but become excited. Primogenitor Jianwang was an innate divine beast. He was someone who stood at the pinnacle of the extraterritorial starry sky, an unparalleled existence that could move unhindered across countless continents. Not to mention a statue personally carved by such a person, even a casual mark left behind by him would contain the pinnacle of martial skills. Once one comprehended it, the benefits would be endless. According to the records, the founding ancestor of our holy dragon mystic realm once followed primogenitor Jianwang. Later on, primogenitor Jianwang bestowed this statue to him as the foundation for the establishment of our sect. The holy dragon mystic realm disciple was not impatient as he explained in detail to Chu Fengmian. Every disciple of the holy dragon mystic realm is qualified to comprehend this statue of primogenitor Jianwang at a close distance. However, they must pay a sufficient amount of contribution points. Furthermore, it's not only limited to this statue of primogenitor Jianwang. In our holy dragon mystic realm, there are many items left behind by almighties. As long as you have sufficient contribution points, you can go and comprehend them. As for the contribution points, you'll know once you join the holy dragon mystic realm. Chu Fengmian nodded his head after hearing this. Contribution points were something that every sect had. Only by using contribution points could one exchange for sect resources. As long as one worked for the sect, one would be able to obtain a sum of contribution points. Thank you for your explanation. Chu Fengmian nodded and said to the sacred dragon mystery dimension disciple. It's all right. We're all newcomers. My name is Kong Chen. I'm a disciple of the human sect hall. If there's anything you don't understand, you can find me at the human sect hall. Kong Chen said with an easygoing smile. Let's go first. I'll try to comprehend it when I have the time. Looking from afar, Chu Fengmian could only see a blur. He might as well find an opportunity to study it up close. After taking a few more glances, Chu Fengmian withdrew his gaze and continued to follow the sacred dragon's secret domain disciple. Soon, Kong Chen led Chu Fengmian to the assessment peak. Weren't there two newcomers? Why is there only one? When they arrived at a palace, an old man said in surprise when he saw Chu Fengmian walk in. That newcomer was taken away by Emperor Gu. Kong Chen replied. Give him a better cave abode. There are already quite a number of newcomers this time. As for the cave dwelling, only Heart Scar Peak is left. The old man looked at the token in his hand and suddenly took out a jade talisman and handed it to Chu Fengmian. A location was marked on the surface of the jade talisman. It seemed to be the location of Chu Fengmian's cave dwelling. Heart Scar Peak? Kong Chen couldn't help but frown. It wasn't a good place. Heart Scar Peak is the only one left. Most of the other cave dwellings have been allocated. The old man couldn't help but say when he saw Kong Chen's expression. Heart Scar Peak's spiritual energy is not far from Enlightenment Peak. I'm afraid that no matter how rich the spiritual energy is, they won't be able to enjoy it. Kong Chen snorted coldly. What's wrong with Heart Scar Peak? Chu Fengmian couldn't help but ask when he saw Kong Chen's tone. Heart Scar Peak used to be one of the best cave dwellings in the sacred dragon's secret domain. However, a 9-tribulation true emperor cultivated in Heart Scar Peak for 100,000 years and still couldn't reach the celestial realm. In the end, he was angered to death and left behind a heart demon in Heart Scar Peak. Kong Chen frowned and said. Although the heart demon was removed later on, it's still very easy to be corroded by it if you cultivate in Heart Scar Peak. You'd better find another cave dwelling. No, Heart Scar Peak. If you don't want it, there are people lining up for it. The old man said with disdain after hearing Kong Chen's words. Although the old man wasn't an elder of the sacred dragon's secret domain, he was still an old man. He didn't care about an ordinary disciple. No need to fight. Heart Scar Peak, Heart Scar Peak. Some heart demons can be used for training. Chu Fengmian said casually and didn't bother to argue. Heart demons? Chu Fengmian had lived 2 lives and had experienced death once. It could be said that no cultivator had experienced it before. In terms of mental fortitude, not many people in the world could compare to Chu Fengmian. Be careful. Kong Chen didn't argue after seeing Chu Fengmian agree and left with Chu Fengmian. Just as Chu Fengmian turned to leave, many people rushed in from outside. Most of these people were quasi-emperors. They surrounded a young man and walked in like stars surrounding the moon. This young man was only a quasi-emperor, but he had a total of 20 worldly laws on his body. He looked like a newcomer who had just entered the sacred dragon's secret domain. However, many of the sacred dragon's secret domain's disciples were already very powerful. Young Master Mu, please come in. When the old man saw the young man walk in, he immediately showed a flattering smile and tried to curry favor with him. I've already reserved the best cave abode in Enlightenment Mountain for you. Yes, well done. When this young master joins the sacred dragon's secret domain, you won't be short of benefits. The young man, who was addressed as young Master Mu, nodded his head. Without batting an eyelid, he directly took away a jade talisman. The jade talisman was located at the heart of the mountain. Obviously, this old man didn't have a cave dwelling, but he didn't want to give it to Chu Fengmian. Who is this person? Chu Fengmian asked as he looked at Kong Chen. When Kong Chen looked at young Master Mu, there was a hint of fear in his eyes. You don't know? Kong Chen was surprised when he heard Chu Fengmian's words. You're tuning into the Mythic Realms YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.